is this thing?
Gio should never play for U.S. men's national team again because of the action of his parents.
What an idiot! Oh!
What type of Muppet does this?
Muppets. Absolute Muppets.
I'm not going to be the best person to give a whole explanation here, but that's...
Booty! Sick! Booty!
Fucking deal with it.
What are we really doing?
Yeah.
I can agree with that. Throw a zebra in between a tarantula and an elephant.
Has been nothing more than a sham.
Yeah, we didn't play well, but you know what? At the end of the day, we got the job done.
It's going to be a good time for sure.
Oh, sex with the first cousin would indeed be incest. And
welcome to the Straight Red Card. I oddly find that lady at the end who says
she talking directly to you
that in sex with a cousin would indeed be incest.
Yeah,
I find her oddly attractive. What's going on with me lately? First, it was that chick from The Handmaid's. No, whatever.
I would say the chick telling you not to bone your cousin is probably more attractive than the chick you were bringing up last show.
Oh, I disagree with that. No way.
I'd have to go back and relook at this.
Okay. Traditionally, yes, maybe so. This is the gal from Mad Men that I already forgot her name. But anyhow, it's Jack says I mean, maybe you are horny, Derek. I don't think so. If you're wondering, by the way, and we're going to talk about this. Oh yeah, we got.
Thanks, Adam. Appreciate that. I knew it looked weird.
I know it's just not right. So if you're wondering why we're wearing our Indy 11 scarves, this is actually the original. This is scarf number 1, by the way.
Mine's upstairs missing somewhere. This is a season ticket holder scarf, I believe.
Right. Elizabeth Moss, Alex Caven's right. I don't know. I just have a thing for Elizabeth Moss. I don't know what it is. I can't really put a finger on it or her for that matter. By the way, just wanted to let everybody know that Alexi Lalas likes my album. So I sent him my album and he's been listening to it. So just another reason to like Alexi. He likes, he like,
got a good taste in music, right? Is that what you're trying to say?
Well, he particularly picked out 2 songs and said, these 2 really stood out to me. I think they're really the best ones on the album. It's really kind of cool. And then I asked him, well, send me a link to your album. And he just not refusing to send it. He even replied and didn't send the link. And then it was weird. I don't know. I know it's out there. I know he has one. Maybe he thinks I won't like it. Maybe that's it. Maybe. And that's very possible. I am a music snob of the highest degree. There is no doubt about it. Music snobbery is my thing. But just another reason to, after all the disagreements we had, getting to know him as a person. He's a lot better than I remember we had that discussion with him and I told him, yeah, we actually met in Indianapolis and I came up to you and you were talking to somebody else and you kind of blew me off and he's
I
like,
believe his exact words were, beat it, nerd.
He's like, oh no, sorry about the bad first impression. Yeah. So anyhow, those days are over. And then, we got into all of our criticisms with him and he's like, I don't care, dude. I get that shit all the time. It's not a big deal. And then, of course, he went atomic again with his political post this week. And I'm just like, Jesus, it's crazy. Why are you doing this to yourself? But hey, he's going to do what he wants to do.
I currently have 0 Fs to give.
He just doesn't give a shit, apparently. Speaking of giving a shit, did you see how Australia wants X to basically censor itself in Australia? I guess there was that stabbing of the priest in Australia, and somebody posted the footage of it, and Australia's like, either you take that down or we're going to consider banning X in Australia. Fuck you, Australia. Fuck you, dude. Who do you think you are? Jesus H. Christ. I mean, if they think that that's brutal, go read a paper in the 1880s, like in Bloomington, when the guy that owned the furniture factory was run over by a train. They didn't just say he got hit by a train. They went into all the details, how mangled he was, how certain body parts were missing, how blood was all over the tracks. I mean, it was gruesome. And yeah, it was words, but still,
you're more than welcome just not to read or watch anything on X.
Yeah,
you don't have to go about saying, "Oh, this must be censored here," because I feel like hold on, how many million people live in Australia?
Who cares? They must all be idiots. That's all I got to say, because they allowed
26
themselves.
million. They have 26 million.
They've allowed themselves to be trampled all over. And apparently Australians are so stupid, according to the people that run Australia, that they need to be protected from any information that they think, isn't 100% correct, which is what they get to decide, and you get to suck it. And if you don't like it, suck it. That's basically what they're saying. So,
Stephanie wants to know what is the special occasion. We'll go over that later on today. But
11, yeah.
Put it quickly. MLS is aiming to squash USL.
Yeah. So all the reports are that, and we'll get into it more in detail, we're about to get San Diego'd, i.e., MLS is going to bring an MLS team to Indianapolis and push the Indy 11 out the door.
I love how we made that a thing. You're about to get San Diego'd.
Yes,
definitely. I called up Derek and I'm like, dude, are we going to get San Diego'd?
Yeah, and I wrote the president of Indy 11, and that's one of the things I said. I'm sorry to hear, but if the news is right, we might get San Diego'd. And anyhow, we'll get into the specifics there. And Alex Caven says Elon Musk is going out of his mind. I don't know if he is or not. I'm just talking about Australia. I really don't give a fuck, about the Elon Musk angle of it. I'm just saying people ought to be able to read what they want to read. And if they're smart enough, they'll figure it out themselves. There's this thing, it's called a discussion. And if somebody says, I call bullshit on that, then there's a discussion that says, I'm calling bullshit on that. And you guys all work it out. We work it out together. We don't need anybody helping us working it out. Any official, government official who's got, all the answers apparently, and is going to tell us who's right and who's wrong. I mean, Jesus, if you're into that, I don't know what to tell you. That's dangerous. Dangerous.
Boomer brings up that we're about to ban TikTok here. There's two sides to this for me. I don't like the concept unless something's just like flagrantly completely misleading on purpose, like downright. I think banning seems wrong, quite frankly, in general. Again, it's one of those things that you don't have to read it, you don't have to watch it. I personally would be fine with TikTok being banned because it is just mind-meltingly dumb.
I don't know. I've never been there, but
I don't even care. That goes with YouTube Shorts too, though. I'm the same way. I'd be more than happy if YouTube Shorts went bye-bye.
Yeah,
it's just whatever. It's like 11 to 15 seconds of short attention span. Swipe, 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 swipe. Watch this for a few seconds. Swipe, 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 swipe. It's dumbing down our Ute.
I get it, but I've watched some of them, so I'd be a hypocrite to say them.
I've watched plenty. I'm just saying I'd be more than content if they were to go bye-bye.
I don't care if they go or not, but I will say this. I mean, as a matter of just standards, I don't think that banning TikTok is the answer. And I don't think they're really going to get banned. They're being forced to sell the company to God knows who, and who knows if that gets better if they're forced to sell it. I don't know. And I don't know a whole lot about TikTok because I've never been there. Of course, I know what it is, but it seems
we do pull up some of their content from time to time for the show because whatever. It works for a show since 15 seconds means you're not going to get kicked. You're not going to get hit by anybody's copyright claim.
Right. And then the other fascinating thing going on this week was this really curious battle going on between Tucker and Ben Shapiro about the atom bomb dropping in Japan. But what neither of the groups has brought up so far, which I find fascinating as a historian, is that, yes, when Truman and his advisors were talking about whether or not they were really going to do this and drop it, one of the things that did come up in the discussion was, hey, the Russians just entered the war. They're going to be attacking Japan with us, but they're also getting a little creepy there in Europe, and they're kind of flexing their muscles there in Europe. What if this is also a good idea to drop the bomb to show them that we've got it, to make them back the fuck up? Like, that was actually part of the discussion that they had. But I haven't heard either of the two bring that up. but just I was all over YouTube. I mean, this they're all talking. Everybody's talking about this debate, but I'm not sure that was even been part of the debate yet. But I think it's an interesting thing to take into into the discussion, because yes, the fact that the Russians after World War II were going to next, and we already knew it. Patton knew it. Everyone knew it. They're going to be our next big enemy. Obviously, we all knew it. And this was also to show them what we had. And so they better back the fuck up. Anyhow, neither here nor there. I'm not going to get into the intricacies of whatever the debate was on their sides, because
1940s politics. Let's not talk about that.
Yeah, it's not.
I think some people still get bent out of shape about all that. It's been a handful of decades.
Listen, it's never a great thing to drop a bomb on a country, a giant one, and kill thousands and thousands of people. But listen. Again, I'm not going to get into the debate, but also this week I made the Il Paradiso. Brett, have you ever had an Il Paradiso? No. It's a very famous sandwich in Italy. Supposedly the best sandwich in the world.
I was going to jokingly say, I don't speak Spanish and English, please.
Il Paradiso.
Like it's Italy. I'm like, oh, never mind.
Shit. Anyhow, it's great. So what you do is take these pistachios, you put them in a grinder, and you add a little salt. You grind it up into not a dust, but a pretty fine. And then with olive oil, you make it into sort of a paste. And that goes on the bottom layer of the bread, right? And then on top of that goes it's the inside of burrata. Burrata are like those mozzarella balls, and they're filled with cream and mozzarella in the middle. So you open them up, and that becomes the other part of the spread on top of the pistachio cream. And then you take prosciutto and mortadella, and you kind of drape it on the top. And then, boop, you put the top on, and you eat it. It's delicious. It really is. I used a very fluffy pita, an awesome pita Greek bread that I've got, because I couldn't really find. I didn't want to make my own bread, basically, for this. That sounded like a step too far. Anyhow, it was delicious.
I made a sandwich too. I toasted 2 pieces of bread, and then I took real mayo, not fake mayo, not that mayonnaise shit. No, sorry, American Whip shit. Took real mayo, spread it on both sides, put some pepper jack cheese, put some turkey, a little bit of tomato, and ate a turkey sandwich.
There you go.
I'm saying all these made up words, and I'm like, I'm going to eat an American sandwich.
Yeah, no, this is
give me that American sandwich.
Look it up. It's called Il Paradiso on YouTube. Make one for yourself. It's delicious. That pistachio cream, I mean, I put that shit on anything. That's how delicious that is. It makes the whole sandwich. Also, on The View, apparently this morning they said men are useless. That's really funny coming from a show that's completely useless, filled with useless, empty brains. Like one of the worst shows on TV. I still don't know how they exist. I don't know who watches that show. It's got to be filled with.
It's always like watching those clips whether it's on Twitter or on YouTube, where they're like, "Hey, can you do you need a man in your life?" And they're like, "No, I don't know. I don't need a man in my life. Do you need a man in your life?" And then they go on to telling them like, "Well, the phone that you're using, the clothing that you're wearing, the streets that you're walking on, the houses that you live in, etc., all built by men." Now, mind you, not 100% accurate. I'm sure there are plenty of women in the midst of all that stuff making that stuff, but it's just like that blanket statement of like, we don't need men. Men are horrible, blah blah. Like,
yeah, we're not all horrible. I mean, there's a percentage of everything that's horrible. There's a percentage of women that are horrible.
I'd be curious. I mean, I don't know how you'd gauge this. I'd be curious to find out which percentage would be higher, whether it's male or female. That's the horrible ones.
Well, yeah. I mean, it depends on what, I guess,
how you gauge it.
Your view of what is horrible. Who's more backstabbing and snipey. I don't know. It's up to you. You decide who's more loyal. I don't know. Loyalty's kind of an important thing. By the way, I want to congratulate Columbus for defeating Monterrey.
Oh, I thought you were talking about
Christopher Columbus? No, I'd be a very late congratulations, wouldn't it?
Maybe you're early, Derek.
Yeah, I know we were talking about Italians, but no, not congratulating Christopher Columbus right now. But yes, for all those people that thought that Columbus was going to get crushed, they do have one thing that a lot of other teams don't have: a very good coach. A very good coach. I mean, the way they play, their patterns of play are not predictable, but yet they're just solid all the way around. So good game by them, and I guess if they got to go to Mexico now and see if they can hold on, and we'll see. By the way, I don't know who this Amanda Bynes character is. I have no clue who she is, but somebody put up a picture of before and after pictures. She was an actress, I guess, Amanda Bynes.
The name sounds familiar.
Holy Christ, what happened to her? I think the answer is drugs. I think that's the answer. Because I can't think of any other reason why somebody would go from being beautiful to that repulsive.
She's a former Nickelodeon star. Yeah, there's probably a whole long many years of physical abuse going on in that mind. That
must be. I don't even know who the hell she is.
That's on par for the course for Nickelodeon stars.
But I saw that photo and then I just looked her up, and she's an actress or whatever, and I'm like, wow, what the hell?
All right, Fumar, you got to realize there's a generational gap here between us and most of the people in the chat, man.
Yeah, no. So I knew the Nickelodeon actors back when my youngest son, was still watching Nickelodeon.
Dude.
That was many, many years ago. Because keep in mind, he's 22 years old now. All right. Yeah. So that was what, 10, 12, when he was 5 to age 11, he watched Nickelodeon. And after that, he stopped watching it. So I know the characters then because it was on the TV. So I know who's the singer with the country star dad. And I
Miley Cyrus?
Yeah. She was on when my son was young and watching. She was just a young, preteen then, Miley Cyrus. All right, so that's
I never got into the Nickelodeon or anything like that. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't get into it. It was just on the goddamn TV.
No, but that's the thing. As a kid, I never got into watching that stuff.
Oh, I didn't either. Well, it wasn't around when I was a kid. Nickelodeon didn't exist.
That's true. You had the three major stations. You had ABC, CBS, and NBC, and then you had PBS. Those were the 4 stations you had back in the 50s, right?
That's true. No, that's true. Right up through until the 80s when we got cable and you got HBO and Skinamax, and that's the first time I ever watched George Carlin. Like my parents were gone, and my brother and I watched George Carlin say the F word like 80 times. And it was I laughed so hard. I
now we're not monetized as a channel because of that.
The F word, yeah. Well, it's usually my fault, so I apologize. All right, we've got a lot to get to. We've done 20 minutes of fluff, and now we're going to get to the show.
Well, we're still going to fluff a little bit.
Yeah, we got more fluff. We got like 2 minutes more fluff, so we can get to 20 minutes.
Pretty much, we'll get easily 2 minutes, yeah, because this will be a good laugh.
Wow, just looked, Amanda Bynes has a face tat. I watched some other. It was probably on TikTok first, but then ended up as a short on YouTube. And it's this gal. She's got this huge nose ring. She's got tattoos all across her forehead. She's got a tattoo of Satan on her neck, and she wonders why she's having a hard time getting a job. I mean, seriously.
Strange, I know, right?
I mean, listen, I got nothing against.
It's illegal not to hire that person because of a face tattoo.
I mean, I'm nothing against tattoos, but if you're looking for a job, first you want to make it like, who's the guy with all the face tattoos? The musician, that guy. Like, he could get all the face tattoos he wants because he's making millions and he doesn't need to work at TJ Maxx, right?
Why am I speaking his name right now?
He's not
the white rapper dude.
Nah, he plays guitar and all that. No,
Post
guitar.
Malone?
Post Malone. Like, you can be Post Malone because he's already made it. He can get all the face tattoos he wants.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to go into your own line of business, if you're going to be a musician or artist or whatever, yeah.
But have you seen the people that go into TJ Maxx? They're
what I was thinking of.
They're like my mom. They're 70. They're shopping for their husbands or whatever. Like, my mom would be afraid of someone like that, with a satanic tattoo on their neck and their foreheads covered with tattoos.
Well, I mean, you couldn't ask them for advice on an outfit or a jacket or something like that, because I mean, look at what they've done with their life. You couldn't trust that.
I guess. I don't know.
Dude, I think this jacket would look better on you for this reason. Dude, you got a face tattoo.
I'm just saying.
Am I gonna really believe you? Am I gonna really believe you here?
Right or wrong, you're just gonna have a harder time finding a job.
Jelly Roll is another one that has a face tattoo.
Jelly Roll, yeah, he does too. Yep. All right, let's get to it.
So, Derek, if you were renovating a German stadium, what is one thing you would be incredibly shocked and surprised to find?
That there's a Olympic track on it. That would be horrible.
No, that's not. No. You're renovating the actual stadium itself.
Okay, and it doesn't have an Olympic track.
No Olympic track. Well,
okay.
Hold on. No Olympic track.
Okay.
So you're breaking down walls. You're digging up pipe and stuff like that, and you find something. What do you think it is?
Dead bodies.
Yeah, not too far off.
Well, I'm only saying that because Indy 11, I think,
that's what we found, right?
Found a couple already. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Because they're digging up basically an old graveyard.
Maybe they'll find Al Capone's secret stash as well.
No, I think that's pretty much a done deal at this point. There probably isn't one. An active bomb from World War II was found near or around Mainz home stadium during renovations. They're currently working to defuse it. Holy crap.
Oh, shit.
I mean, speaking of world wars, yes. I mean, we dropped a ton of shit on Germany.
How many of the construction workers do you think jumped on top of it and rode and said, no nuke, no nuke?
It's probably not a nuke.
They're saying this is no nuke, yeah, but
yeah, it's not.
Quick, go home and or was it? I mean, I'd pull my German accent. Quick, go home and get the cowboy hat. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the Germans surrendered before the actual nuclear bomb was ready to go, right? So they didn't have to endure although they did endure the firebombing of Dresden and several other cities.
They didn't surrender before the nuclear bomb was. Hiroshima and Nagasaki occurred before they gave up, because Japan was the first one to bow out, weren't they?
No. Nope. Germany surrendered, and then it took a number of months before Japan.
Fair enough, man. I guess my education went down the shitter. I never really found World War II that interesting, though.
Oh,
any of the recent wars. I've never really found any of the recent wars interesting.
It's fascinating.
I dig more of the ancient times, the swords, the bows, and that type of shit.
Well, that's because you're gay. But all right, let's move on.
Just because I frequent a Renaissance fair doesn't mean I'm gay, Derek.
No, I know you're not. You're married. You do pass as straight. All right, so what do we got here outside of this?
Oh, yeah, we're done talking about finding the bomb, huh?
Yeah, the bomb's interesting. Mainz was bombed during World War II, so I guess it's not shocking. I'm just surprised it took them this long to figure it out. So
there's some bunker, I guess, but it's strange to consider that you've been sitting in a stadium or working in a stadium, front office or concession staff or just a fan, and there was an active bomb in or around the stadium.
Yeah, I mean,
at any point could have just failed.
But they dug it up, right? So,
well, sure. I imagine they probably broke through a wall and found a bunker.
Something like that. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Brett failed history class.
Yeah, I did. I'm telling you, man. The recent history, the last 100+ years or whatever, boring to me. I respect movies like the TV shows like Band of Brothers, and I respect Saving Private Ryan and stuff like that, and those type of movies. But I don't find them that interesting. Wow. Like I like the character development from Band of Brothers more so than the actual wartime content.
Well, you're going to kill off a bunch of fans, so let's stop talking about this.
You're right. We should talk about how short Napoleon is, right?
No, we won't. I did like the fact that somebody said, I can't remember what show it was, and they said, and no, we're not going to talk about the myth that Napoleon was short. No, he was not short. But yes, so I actually have a history degree, so obviously I'm not expecting everyone to be as into it as me. I mean, my bookshelves are full of books about Napoleon, World War II, World War I, you name it. Like, it's might as well be I don't read nonfiction anymore, or excuse me, fiction. I don't.
Chris Gary says you find World War II boring. Horrifically, yes. I mean, it is a horrific war, and again, I have nothing but respect for the people that went and fought to defend and all that stuff. But the actual content behind it, I find incredibly boring.
The only reason you find it boring is nobody's really ever explained it to you in a exciting way. That's usually how you can gauge any history, because if you find it boring, it's usually the person teaching it to you is boring. There you go. That's usually the problem.
That's fair enough.
Yes.
I mean, I just find ancient history more entertaining.
I mean, I had history teachers who were so bad that they thought that the H-Man's book was called Mein Kampf. And I'm like, no, sir, that's not his book he wrote was not called Mein Kampf. All right. I don't know what you're thinking. You're the football coach, obviously. So this is what you do on the side, a history teacher. And that is the problem. There are a lot of pieces of shit teaching history out there, or there used to be. And it was usually, the football coach side job. Jack Pineda, you prefer Lord of the Rings to Star Wars, Brett? Probably.
Yes. 100% actually. I mean, especially the new shit. 100%. Well, then again, I don't like the new Lord of the Rings stuff either. So newer is not always better. And then BMR has, I don't care about the people from World War II, Brett, 2024.
Yeah, you're making yourself a lot of fans tonight. All right, what else we got?
Boring. It's all recent history stuff is boring to me because it's all recent. It's all relatively similar age-wise. I don't know.
If I explained it to you, you would not be bored. All right, what are we doing?
Explain many things to me, and I just give you this glossy-eyed look half the time.
I know. All right. It's fascinating. Very fascinating. All right, what else we got? Deacon Clapcheeks. I always think, is there something in there that I don't know about? Deacon Clapcheeks. Come on, NBC. Pulisic and Messi will be at Copa, and Mbappe will be at the Euros. None of these three are likely for the Olympics. I heard that Mbappe really wants to go to the Olympics. I don't know if they're going to let him do it, but
case, yeah.
I mean, it's just not worth the potential injury. The Olympics, I don't know. I wouldn't. Yeah, Pulisic's not. I don't think he's going to the Olympics. We got Copa America, and that is way more important right now than the Olympics, except if you're Pete. Pete really loves him some Olympics. Like, he whips out the lube and everything. He's like, ooh.
I thought Pete was on team the Olympics really don't mean anything.
No, he's the opposite. I'm the one that says the Olympics might as well be Olympic. He's the one that's all on board with it.
Where's Tactfall then?
I don't know. He's never.
I thought both of them were on our side when it came to that.
No, that's one of the big disagreements Pete and I have. I'm like the Olympics when it comes to soccer. I love the Olympic. I love Olympic hockey. I love Olympic skiing. There's lots of things I love about the Olympics, but soccer, that's been relatively boring my whole life, honestly. Olympic soccer. Now, we haven't been in the Olympics for some time, but the women's Olympics is meaningful because they don't have a whole lot of other tournaments to play. But for the men, if you're
it's meaningful because you have the full teams there.
Well, if you got Copa and you got the Olympics, Copa's more important.
I'm just saying, but my point there would be if the women's were also U23, it would be just as not irrelevant, but less entertaining to most. I mean,
I agree.
A lot of people will still watch and root for USA, whether it's men or women.
Right.
But if they win or lose, you're not going to go home and be like, oh man, that ruined my life. Like if you lost the World Cup, okay, that could ruin your life. Well, yeah. For that short amount of time, yeah.
I wish we had like the Olympic theme song. We were playing it in the background while we talked about this.
That one? Is that the Olympic song?
No, I get it. I get it. I started. No, definitely not. That's Chariots of Fire, motherfucker.
I just imagine. I can just imagine the clip. I forgot what it's from of the guy holding the torch, and
It
running
was
too fast.
it was a good movie, Chariots of Fire, and it was about the Olympics, so you
That's
got that
also in
right.
Old School does that too. They have that
And
during
then-
their montage of stuff.
Yeah, and at the end, the Australian or New Zealand guy or whoever it is gets killed at Gallipoli. So what a bitch that movie was. All right, Gallipoli. By the way, battle from World War One between the Turks and the English. A master stroke, if you will, by that genius Churchill. Actually, it wasn't a master stroke. The English were cornered and hammered and had to get back on their boats and leave. That's the Battle of Gallipoli. There's also a movie with Mel Gibson called Gallipoli, if you're interested.
I've heard of the Battle of Thermopylae. Is anywhere close to
that? You ancient times, motherfucker. Yes, they're close, but no cigar. Same general region, but not the same battle. One was fought.
Era. Sure.
One was fought with spears. The other one was fought with bullets and guns and artillery. All right, what else we got?
Significantly cooler. I agree.
Do I have to read this?
No, I guess the gist of it really is that they're let's see here. The men's tournament is a U23 competition, but 3 players in each squad over the age of 23 is allowed.
We know this.
Eyes will be on the likes of Mbappe, Pulisic, and Messi. So that's the whole point of why he's bringing that up, is that they bring up 3 names in this article. I'm guessing, what did he say? It was NBC that said this? Yeah, NBC posted this, and they posted 3 potential overage players that could play in the Olympics. And they bring up the 3 biggest names. One American, of course, because obviously we got to pander to the Americans here. But the other 2 massive that would draw in views and clicks.
Listen, this is some turd in the basement of NBC writing this that knows very little about soccer. So, like, Deacon's probably, blowing up a wet chimney here. Like, that guy's going to go, whoa, I wonder why he says that. Because he doesn't know what he's talking about. Now, is there a chance that one of the 3 could go? Yeah, but it's pretty small. It's pretty infinitesimal. There are other more important things going on, like the Euros, like Copa America. So no. And their teams would be stupid to let them do it too, by the way.
Yeah, I can't imagine. Well, Inter Miami might, I guess. But the other 2, I mean, no.
No, I don't think so.
I mean, and Mbappe, isn't Mbappe on his way out, PSG at this point?
Yes.
I mean, what is it, Real Madrid?
Real Madrid, yep.
They're not going to release him for the Olympics. You're going to be like, no, fuck you.
Yeah. Like, the Olympic theme sounds a lot like the Canadian national anthem. Dun, 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 but it's not. And it's just, I can't get it in my head. Anyhow, let's go on to the next topic.
Nope.
No?
We're going to do this.
What are we doing?
Because you don't want it, it's stuck in your head, but you can't. It's not stuck in your head. You can't seem to think of the theme itself.
Oh shit! Come on already!
I'm pausing it because we're definitely gonna get dinged for that.
I don't think so. It's over 72 years old. Are we serious? They don't ever play any of these parts. There we go.
There?
I remember this part. Yeah. Yeah, that sounds really familiar. So that's it. Okay.
Oh, I like mine better.
Yeah, I like the Canadian. I like the Canadian national anthem better, actually. All right. So thank you for listening to the. A lot of the boring parts they probably play during the ceremony at the beginning where they're walking around carrying their flags and stuff. And but I thought that ABC, when they covered back when I was a kid, used a very specific part of that as their intro, and it was probably none of the things we just listened to. So I don't know. Nevertheless, let's get to it. Let's do some soccer.
Well, we've been talking about soccer stuff, but we'll move on. We'll move on.
S-O-C-C-A.
We'll move on to this.
Do not panic. Do not panic. Cap them now. Cap them now. All right. Yeah, we don't have to cap this guy. He's coming to San Diego.
Yeah.
His name is Vaughn Coville. And I remember all these people posting about Vaughn Coville.
Yeah, we talked about him like a week or so ago.
He's going to sign for somebody else. We need to bring him in. Blah, blah, blah.
He's going to play for England, right?
No. He'll be lucky to play for Canada. Let's just put that.
He might play for the Philippines.
Is that what that is?
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
His mom is a former women's Canadian national team player, right?
I don't know. I haven't fucked her. I don't know anything about it.
You mean you only remember things about women that you fucked, huh? Oh yeah.
I mean, it's more likely, yes. I'll remember.
Right, that's right. Yeah. No.
I mean, I say this in jest, but yes, I mean, I'm glad that MLS clubs are, look, he's obviously San Diego are interested in him because they got his player rights, but.
What a strange end up pick though, because we looked him up on Transfer Market, and he barely plays for their second team, he hasn't gotten a single minute for Hull.
Right, but
what are they aiming for here?
Well, you're missing one big thing about him that San Diego really likes, Brett, and that he hit puberty at a very early age, as you know. That's
the first question of the questionnaire they send out to all the players. When did you hit puberty? What was it?
How much hair do you have on your nutsack? Yes, and that's how they determine who they're gonna, put a hold on.
Which Manscaped device do you use? Not enough. Sorry. Better luck in Cincinnati.
If you were going to shave your pubic hair, would you need a mower?
Do you need a lawnmower?
Or B, tweezers? Mower. I need a mower. We're after you. So that's why they're interested, San Diego, in Coville. He's a hairy motherfucker. All right, what else we got?
Yeah, not a lot of dual nats to talk about. We talked about all the dual nats last show, and there were a lot of them. So we have to move on from that show.
Right.
We're going to be moving on to
Transfer News. Who's getting monitored on Transfer News? Who's getting over on Transfer News? Transfer News. Everyone loves that Transfer News but me. Whatever.
By the way,
sorry, I was going to say that dual nat one we just did.
Yeah.
So that could have been Transfer News too, I guess.
It could have been. By the way, Larry's not around, just so people know. Larry, I believe, he had a baby. Just born, so his life is completely changing right now.
Is that what Larry's doing?
Yeah. Do you not see that? Did he not send that message to you?
No, my notifications has been quiet of recent. You can tell I've only got one right now.
So Larry just had a baby. Life is changing for Larry. I guess Larry doesn't exist anymore. So is Larry dead? Is that what you're saying?
It's a man formerly known as Larry.
Well, maybe Larry's now Johnny. I don't know. But I know he just had a baby, apparently. Cool, Brett. Way to be insensitive to baby Larry. Baby Larry.
I didn't see it. Larry didn't tag me in anything, and he didn't say, "Hey, yo, bro, my special lady friend just popped a baby."
Yeah, interesting.
Sound like
that. You know why Tom Bogert grew that mustache? Because without it, if you pause the video with him and you cover his mustache with your a finger or a pencil,
yeah,
he looks like he's 12 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, he looks like a little baby. He looks like a baby man. I mean, it's really quite amazing. I don't know how old he is. He's got to be in his early 20s, but he should be happy. He can carry that. What age do I look like? You look like a ninja. I don't know.
Well, what age do I look like? You said I look like a ninja?
You look 30-ish, somewhere around there.
You're suggesting I should shave my beard.
Yeah, you do look younger without a beard.
I don't think so.
I would look younger without this white shit on my face.
Well, sure. I mean, yeah, you look like Santa Claus right now.
Oh, God, thanks. All right. U.S. men's national team, Trev, says Griffin, moving back to MLS wouldn't end his career, and it's a bit repetitive hearing that. Well, I hate to tell you, buddy, but if he goes to MLS, he ain't going back to Europe. That's just how that works. But a rational viewer would see that it halts all his positive momentum and self-imposes a talent ceiling. The defending in MLS is simply not the level where ceilings break. Well, I mean, that's all fine. But keep in mind, probably 80% of the teams that he's playing right now aren't that good either in Belgium. So
while on a technical standpoint, it won't, quote unquote, end his career, he'll have a much steeper hill to climb to get to the national team.
Yes. Or go back to Europe. Many people, once people go to MLS, they don't, from Europe to MLS, they don't usually.
They generally don't. You're right.
Right.
And we've had a number of players recently that did that. They've gone to Europe, they come back, and then they just end their career somewhere in the U.S.
Yeah. And
not even in MLS at that point.
Yeah.
I mean, this is one of the things. How old is Griffin again? He's young, isn't he?
20.
Yeah. So he could still vie for this, that whole MLS initiative or U22 initiative or whatever that they're really pushing. And they may look at this and go, wow, geez, I'm going to be like tripling the money I'm making here in Belgium. And that's tough. That's tough for him to say no to at that point. If that's the case, I'll be doing a lateral move to MLS. Maybe it'll cause me an inroad in the January camp, which might improve my standings with the national team going forward. Right. I still have time to go back to Europe is maybe what he's thinking.
Probably, but he's wrong. Like I said, and you said, once you go to MLS from Europe back to MLS or to the United States to MLS, you just generally don't go. I can't really think of an American player who was in Europe, went to MLS, and then, except if you count like maybe Dempsey's loan to Fulham while he was in MLS, or Donovan's loan to Everton while he was in MLS. But you just don't really ever go back.
Unless you're European, of course.
Yeah, you just don't really go back, So, yeah.
Johnny says Stu Holden, but was he in Europe before signing with MLS?
Yeah.
He was?
He was at Sunderland, but he didn't really play, so that's not really...
Well, is it Sunderland, signed with Sunderland, was it Sunderland's academy?
I don't think he ever played for the big boy team. He might have gotten a game or two, but he was not a starter before he was picked up in MLS. And they really picked him up at MLS because he had a U.S. passport and he wouldn't really count against as a foreign player. So he was something a lot of teams in MLS were scouting. They were scouting a lot of dual nats in Europe who may not be good enough for like Sunderland at the time, but were probably good enough for MLS. Then when he went, of course, to Bolton later, he became a really great player. Was a very great player for Bolton. But then the injuries. So there you go.
Now I'm just scrolling back down. What's funny is that he was listed at Sunderland in 2005, I think is what it was, then signed with MLS in 2006. But Transfer Market doesn't have him down at Sunderland at all. His career doesn't start to MLS. So again, I doubt he even signed for them. I mean, maybe a youth contract or something like that.
No, he was at Sunderland. He as a youth academy player.
As an academy player, again, that's different.
But and I know this for a fact because he was beat up in Sunderland.
But he didn't even play in the academy. It doesn't even show that here.
Are you on Transfer Market?
Yes.
Yeah, weird. Don't know what to say. That's where he grew up.
That's fair. Well, he played at Clemson for a year.
Yep, he did.
Before going to Sunderland, quote unquote.
Yep. So it just didn't work out in Sunderland, but he did get his face crushed in and beat up there. Have you seen those photos with him with a black eye and he had to have like some sort of facial reconstruction. They broke bones in his face.
Wasn't aware of that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really trying to think of anybody else that started in Europe, came to MLS, went back to Europe.
No,
because here's the big problem: you're going to be signing at MLS. You're going to be signing a 3-2 contract.
That's right.
3 years plus 2 extensions if the clubs win it.
Right.
And at any point, they can transfer you within clubs, and the other team has the option to keep those options.
McBride, that's a good example. I wouldn't use Morris because he went there.
Well, he was at Wolfsburg and then came to MLS and then went to Fulham.
Right.
Is that right?
Right? Correct. Yeah, he was in Germany, came to the United States for the opening of MLS. He was really, really, really young still. then went back, of course, and played at Fulham for all those years. I mean, he played at Preston North End as well, McBride. So he is
Yeah,
one
we're
of
only
the
talking about American players.
only American.
People are mentioning names, and I'm not sure.
Taylor Twellman, no, that didn't really happen. He never went back. Stefan has been a flip-flopper. Yeah, he was in Germany, then to MLS, then over to Man City, and then back to MLS. Not a really good example, though, of a successful flip-flopper, though.
Well, he came back to MLS and did well. Then Man City picked him up. So, I mean, that's definitely a positive, I would say, compared to where he was. Mind you, he didn't get any playing time at City for the most part.
And just to clarify on Morris, he got a trial at Werder Bremen. He never signed the contract because of his dog. So that doesn't count. He was never officially signed by Werder Bremen.
Correct.
So he did not go to Werder Bremen, then come back to MLS, and then go back. No, that doesn't count. Trials don't count. Spencer Doherty for 5.69. Finals suck. What's worse, though? MLS? Derek, you should teach Brett about the Japanese plan to invade Madagascar. Yeah, should go to the championship. You know what? They were not the only ones planning to not invade, but take over Madagascar during World War II. There would have been the Germans as well, because they had a plan of putting all the European Jewish folks there. That was their plan. They gave up on that plan, but it was a plan at one point. BSU up. I don't know what that means. Ball State University.
Yeah.
Oh, good for you, Spencer. That's not too far from here.
He's a Cardinal. See?
He is a Cardinal. Not the greatest town I've ever visited. But
boring as fuck all.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. Pretty boring. So thank you. What is the Tom says here? Tom, don't bogart that. I wonder if Tom would come on our show.
What about Mixed Discrude?
Yeah, if you really want to count his time in MLS is significant. It really wasn't, but yeah, technically you're correct. He did go back to Europe because he wasn't good enough for MLS.
As far as I remember with Bobby, he started in Germany and then ended in MLS, or
That's
still ending in MLS.
That's correct. He started in Germany, so did not start in MLS. Anyhow, we'll try to get. I'm interested in having Tom Bogart on this show.
He's just talking about Griffin's 7 goals, 6 assists currently, and summer breakout, whatnot, blah blah blah, etc. etc.
Yeah, that's nice. I'm sure Westerlo would like to hang on to him, or as Pete says, Westerloo. I mean, I really think that he'd like to hang on to Reynolds and Yao. Although Yao has had much more of an impact for the team than Reynolds has. I have to tell you, Reynolds has mostly been a passenger this season. He has not wowed. He is not stunned. He is nowhere near the best left back or back in period in Belgium. He's nowhere close. And at times has looked rather average. I hate saying that, but he's not been very good. All right.
Hey, I'm just trying to take a look at
Derek, Pete said Westerlo on the video he released yesterday. You should be proud.
Mm-hmm.
Aha! Good. Yes, I'm glad he fixed that. And they both have fixed Eupen as well. Both of them have fixed Eupen. So that's good news as well. And we love those guys, so we don't want them out there looking foolish, do we?
Maybe.
Nope. It does help. It makes funny things for us to make fun of. Kenny Cooper, I could go back.
Kenny Cooper played on Man U's. I don't. Did he play for the big boy team? I thought he played for their academy team.
Just the youth academy team. That doesn't count.
Because Kenny Cooper came up recently. I brought him up with him and John Thorrington as well.
Mm-hmm.
But neither went back to Europe after coming to MLS.
No,
they both stayed.
Kenny Cooper went to MLS and just stayed, and so did Thorrington.
Did Casey ever leave MLS?
I think Connor Casey didn't start in MLS, did he? I know he went to Germany, and then he came back. He came here, but I thought he went to Germany straight after college. So
let's find out real quick. So Connor Casey start. Wow, was this really the same guy? He started at Dortmund, actually.
Yeah, right.
And he actually had a decent German career before coming to MLS, and then he stayed in MLS.
Correct. So no, that doesn't count. You've got to start in MLS, go to Europe. Wait, no, you got to start in Europe, go to MLS, or either way, you can start in MLS, go to Europe, and come back to MLS. But once you go back to MLS or go to MLS after having your European career, you just don't go back. Except for McBride, that was the best example so far. But things were really on the sketch. Remember, MLS had just started. Okay.
Kenny Cooper is yeah, he's an example, I guess. He was signed with Manchester United and got loaned out to a number of teams. Came to Dallas and played, and then he went to 1860 Munich.
Okay, that's fair.
Played in 13 games in 2 seasons, and then came back to MLS
and never went back to Europe. So he was only in Europe once. We're talking.
No. He was in Europe to start with. He came to FC Dallas, and then he went back to Munich, and then he came back to MLS.
Okay.
So Kenny Cooper is another one, yes.
Yes, Kenny Cooper counts then. All right. DeAndre Yedlin. No, I thought he was in MLS. Went over to Europe.
I think people are just mentioning players at this point.
Yeah. Let's move on.
Are we missing the criteria here?
Yeah, I don't get it. All right, we're moving on. Not Yedlin. Yedlin went to Europe, came back to MLS, and since he's been back in MLS, he's never gone back to Europe.
We're gonna be spending quite a bit of time in MLS, guys. Just so you guys know.
Yeah.
So buckle down for some really interesting conversation topics.
Don't tell people that they're going to leave. All right.
Gioacchini, how about that?
Yep, that works.
That's a good one.
I mean, it's technically correct, but he's no starter for Como in Serie B. All right. And by the way, he went back to Europe and he's not in, Liga, right? He's playing in Serie B in Italy. That's a step. That's a step down in many ways from MLS.
I feel like, but to an extent, though, this is kind of like altering. This is like changing the goalpost, right? Because we gave X. This has to be X, Y, and Z, and now we're adding like, well, here's an addendum right here. It has to be this, maybe.
Yeah, I'm adding X, Y, Z, A, B, C. Yes, I'm going to do that because going back to Europe and playing, or like our homeboy with the Revs went and played in Vietnam, right? And back to MLS and then went back to Vietnam. Really, we're going to count that as going abroad? It is going abroad.
Well, I mean, he was at PSV and he went to Randers and then he went to Vietnam because MLS wanted to shaft him and give him the minimum salary.
Right.
Which is bullshit.
I get it. And Zlatan does not count because he's not American. We're talking about Americans here. Americans.
All right. So apparently the Premier League wants to introduce a hard spending cap.
And the motion will be voted on Monday. And I'm guessing it'll probably pass. I don't know how hard. I don't know how hard it is.
I'm guessing 6 teams will say no. And the rest will be like, please.
Right. Let's get to the details. The cap would allow clubs to only spend 5 times the commercial and broadcast revenue of the lowest team in the division. Wow, I suppose there's probably going to be some debate about that before they agree on this. But if it's true, and let's say the lowest team is 100 mil, they can spend 5 times 100 mil. That's 500 million. I don't know the last team in England that spent $500 million in transfer window.
What's the lowest revenue you're saying was 100 mil?
100 mil is like the bottom line for commercial and broadcast revenue.
5% would be like 5 mil.
No. Only spend 5 times.
Oh, times.
Commercial.
Sorry, I read that.
Right.
I read and heard you wrong, apparently.
So that's a lot of money. So I would guess they're all going to say, yeah, that's fine. Because none of us are going to spend 500 mil anyhow in one season. Except for Chelsea. Chelsea probably do that.
Chelsea's like, oh, come on, guys.
So, I don't know. I mean, we got to get into the technical shit of this. I don't know if what I just said is completely accurate, but just based on basic math, that seems to be accurate. And I did think that I do think that it's 100 mil for each team, basically, especially even at the bottom for the broadcast.
Hold on one second. The cap would allow clubs to spend 5 times commercial broadcast from the lowest team. Now, I guess to point that Al's making here is it's $100 million span over several years. He doesn't know how many years, so that'd be the question, I guess. If let's say your broadcast is $100 million, and 5 times that's $500 million, how many years can you spend that on?
As far as I understand, Al, that's 1 year because you're never guaranteed to stay.
Why would you even bother putting in a cap, a hard spending cap, if nobody's going to hit that? Nobody outside of Chelsea, nobody has hit that cap.
Well, you say that now, but in 10 years, somebody might spend $500 million.
Well, in 10 years, I think the revenue of the broadcasting rights might be up higher.
I mean, in total salary, that's doable. You think about Chelsea, I don't know what their total salaries are for a season.
Well, this isn't a salary cap. This is a spending cap.
Same thing, really.
Well, I see spending cap as transfers in.
I mean, spending cap can be everything from the staff that you hire, your chief executive,
I guess it really depends how you want to break it down. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this could get all Formula One and shit, like really detailed, like all this shit on an Excel sheet that you got to track. Not only your scouts, everyone you hire, your assistant coaches count under the spending cap. You know, I want to see details. We don't have them yet. They're not been published. But once we get the deal, it'll be interesting to see how that's broken down and what counts as spending. Like, is hiring a great manager for $20 million count as spending? It does. Like that, you're spending money to hire a great manager for $20 million a year or $10 million a year. That's going to count. And then if you're Chelsea, you're looking at that and going, shit, I think we're over that already.
This starts next year, right? Right?
Yeah, seriously. I mean, the amount of money they are pouring into that club for all those shitty players they bought. Yeah, they could already be in trouble, but we'll see what happens. I know we said this before, financial fair play, and then the system in Germany only allows you to spend so much. You can say that's not a cap. Okay, it's not. If you don't like comparing apples and oranges, I get it. But you know what? It is sort of a cap. In the Bundesliga, you can't just go spending money willy-nilly. There is a limit to what you can spend based on what you bring in. So we'll see how this all works out. But financial fair play, in a sense, was supposed to be not a cap, but an understanding of a limit of what you can spend. And if you go over that, you get fucked, like Everton. Well, Everton's doing fine. Or Nottingham Forest didn't meet. They overspent. There are plenty of teams that have overspent in Italy and gotten in trouble. So there is a cap. You don't have to call it a cap if you won't want to, but there is a limit to what you can spend right now. There really is. This isn't like baseball in the 1990s, right? Where the Yankees could just go and buy all the best players in baseball. Brett is wrong. This is a hard cap on transfer spending and wages. Brett is wrong, or am I wrong?
No, I mean, I said that I took that as transfers then. So he's saying that I'm wrong. That includes all spending. That's the hard cap is on transfer spending and wages. So
it's everything.
So, you know, if you spend 200 mil on, if you have, let's say 500 mil is your cap, because of that's what half of whatever, or 5 times last year's lowest was, and you spend 200 million of it on transfers, you only have 300 mil to spend on the wages of your players.
Yeah. And then I don't really get the part where he says, where are all the MLS dorks? Is he talking about the people who are
the anti-MLS dorks that bitch about the cap and all that stuff? Like, hey, if it's just open spending, MLS might actually be worthwhile.
No league going forward is ever just going to have totally open spending, because even financial fair play is it's a ceiling. It's a ceiling you cannot cross or pass. So there's no team in the world really that can break the FFP.
Mm-hmm.
And if they do, they'll be in trouble. So it's not a solid ceiling number because it differs from club to club. But yeah, I don't know, anti-MLS dorks. I don't know. I'm sure they're out there. There people always shit all over MLS. But there's a reason MLS has a cap. And it really doesn't have much to do with Don Garber. It doesn't. Don Garber's tried to do everything he can. This is not to suck Don Garber's cock, who I do not like, okay, in general.
Don Gobbler.
Yes, not a fan. But he has tried every way he can to get around the stingy owners, and we know who they are. They own the Revs.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we talked about them enough. They're the old school owners who don't want the cap to go up hardly at all, ever. And he said, okay, if you don't want it to go up, then I'm going to figure out these weird ass ways to get around it, to get teams to spend more. And it's called TAM and GAM. And I know they're ridiculous, but keep in mind, Garber had to do that because he was getting pressure from the owners of Seattle and a lot of the teams coming into the league who want to spend. So he's got the old guys who started the league that he has to honor and respect and actually have important positions on the board at MLS. And then at the same time, he's got to honor the new owners who want to spend. So he's like, all right, I'll figure out a way to get around these old crusty motherfuckers. And I'm going to come up with some stupid ass rules called TAM and GAM that at least gives these newer teams a way to spend the money they want. Now, they're not going to get all they want, but they're going to get, more than they're allowed to do now. So we'll see the cap probably broken up a little more and maybe go up, but it's never going to go up way high. Because the crusty owners like Kraft and the others, Hunts, said they don't want the cap to go up that high. They want it to be a slow progression of about 3% by a year and no more.
Yeah, they're looking long term, not the immediate effect. Now I know Johnny is definitely Larry. This is one of Larry's big talking points. Bro, Bomacall makes $900K.
That's a lot of money for a guy who can not run very fast anymore or make any sharp cuts anymore because he's been injured so prolifically that time and time again that ended Pomacall's career. There was a time we were talking about Pomacall going to Bayern Munich, right? I mean, those days are over.
I saw a tweet today talking about Jimenez from Feyenoord.
Mm-hmm.
Possibly going to Liverpool, and they dubbed him the Mexican Erling Haaland.
No, that ain't gonna happen. I mean,
that's fun.
I mean, it's comparing those two is so ridiculous. And by the way, I don't have enough fingers and toes to count the number of players who led the scoring charts in Holland and then went to England or Spain or wherever else and were a complete fucking flop, including Josie Altidore in that list. All right, who were near the scoring top of the list in Holland. And then wherever they went, totally petered out. Even De Jong didn't really have that great of a career outside of Holland, right? Not really. Not great. Not what he's doing now. Not this good. But yeah, he's good in Holland.
You get the chance to beat teams 8-0, man. It's going to pad your stats.
Oh, God. That was a horrible game. But good for Tillman. Good for Tillman.
Max here says he thinks that European leagues will soon imitate a lot of what MLS is doing.
No, they're not going to imitate it, Max. They're going to do it their own way. And it's not going to look like...
Bully's already pushing for a all-star game in England.
Who is?
Bully, Chelsea's owner.
Oh, he's pushed for that whatever he took over.
I think we should have an all-star game.
I think you need a brain, you know? So Tom Bogert, that joint,
we've already talked about this. This is the same topic we just talked about.
Yeah, they're not going to do that kind of salary cap. They're not going to have TAM. They're not going to have GAM. They're not going to go that stupid. They'll keep it more than likely pretty simple.
No. As far as the salary cap Max is concerned, I mean, that basically just is that he thinks that soon European leagues will implement a salary cap.
No, he said imitate.
I'm just saying, because he goes, no, I think Europeans will imitate a lot of what MLS is doing, but but they're talking about the salary cap, so they're going to implement a salary cap, but not necessarily the same type of salary cap that we have is what he's kind of alluding to. What you're basically saying.
Then don't use the word imitate.
I think what's going to end up happening is you're going to see the market value eventually plateau and reset a bit eventually. Because, I mean, you look at players, we use Weston always as an example. How many teams out there are really going to pay his $25 million that he's worth?
Right.
He's a good player, but is he $25 million worth?
And then you look at teams like Luton, the teams at the bottom of the Premier League, they're never going to get, if this 500 mil is the cap or the low, we don't know what it's going to end up actually being, but none of those teams are anywhere near close.
How could they? They made 100 mil just on. They're the ones who they're the bar, right?
I mean, yeah.
So, this is the lowest part of that salary cap. I mean, it's 100 mil is how much they earn. So you guys can spend 5 times that.
So the Liverpools, Man Cities, Man Uniteds, Chelsea's, I mean, they're going to still spend probably all of that, or close to it if they can in a year. But the other teams at the bottom, they still can't afford to spend that kind of money. So it'll be interesting to see what goes on. But this is in no way an imitation of MLS. I mean, can you imagine if an MLS team could spend, the cap was 500 mil? I mean,
I guess the imitation is that they're implementing a cap. And that's it. Because what other soccer leagues really implement caps?
That's like two guys standing next to each other. One is a porn star, and the other one has a dick that's only 2 inches long. And you're like, but they're both dicks. Yeah, okay, there are both. He's got a penis, and he's got a penis, but this guy's penis is 12.
Yes, you're right. The salary cap in Europe and EPL is going to be significantly more impressive than the salary cap in MLS, but it's still a salary cap.
But one's 12 inches long, and the other one's 2.
Sure. Mock the one with the tiny penis, Derek, all you want.
I'm just telling you, they're not comparable. One is an effective tool for pleasure, and the other one, well, whatever.
I guess it depends on how you define efficiency. Maybe the 2-inch is very proficient at having babies, and the 12-inch shoots blanks.
Yeah, if you're wanting to make babies.
That's why I said it depends on how you rate efficiency.
I know. I'm just saying.
So that you can't sit here and mock the 2-incher.
Because you went straight to babies? Really?
Well, that's why I said I added a precursor as far as how I'm going to rate efficiency in this case.
The guy with the 2-inchers got better, testicles. He's got a higher sperm count. I mean, Jesus.
They're loaded and they're ready to go.
If it's a porn movie, the guy with the 12 is going to do a much more effective job for you. Again, as if we're setting parameters. You're right. It's about what are the parameters?
Yeah.
What are the parameters? Right.
And you know what? If MLS had the same bank that the EPL makes on their broadcasting rights, everything like that, I doubt you'd see a 500 million cap by any means. I don't know if MLS will ever get to that point. But you would definitely see a significantly high. You'd probably see a 6-inch, right?
I mean,
much bigger at that point.
Yeah, right. You're putting everything behind a paywall, though, right? Did you hear that the Club World Cup that's coming to the United States, that's going to be behind a paywall? I mean, if you want to keep doing that, fine. But
they're thinking. I think, quite frankly, they're thinking short term. They're looking at the big money that Apple's willing to spend here, not necessarily saying we need to get eyes on our product. So,
yeah, that's just not really thinking. Because listen, the reason that my brother, for instance, started getting into U.S. soccer, besides my prodding him and texting him, hey, there's a U.S. soccer game on, you should watch it, it was not behind a paywall. So he could flip on Fox or NBC or whatever and watch it. Now, I'm like, yeah, the U.S. is playing right now. I can't remember one of the games was behind a paywall. And he's like, well, what channel is it on? And I sent him the channel. He's like, I can't watch that. I don't have that shit.
Yeah.
I don't get it. So...
yeah, well, here's the thing, though. You start seeing, leagues like USL that are selling players to Europe still, and they have national broadcast rights. We talked about the one they had, Indy 11 versus who was it, Louisville?
Yeah,
that was massively viewed.
Was it 500,000?
It was something crazy like that. Yeah,
yeah.
And you have all these eyes on the product. Now, mind you, they have some behind. They have some behind a paywall because they're still on Paramount,
right? Yep.
But I mean, they still have a national broadcast rights too. But I think some MLS will as well. To that point, though, MLS doesn't have to worry about it because all you have to do as a league is set up shop in your competitor's biggest market and eventually choke them until submission.
Yes, it's about to happen.
That's our big talking point tonight.
It's about to happen to us.
Not our big talking point, but a big talking point
It's
for
not.
us.
We should get Johnny here real quick with his super chat. Can we talk U4 weak prospects?
I don't know why you got a week old. U4 week old prospects, man. That's
under 4 week prospects.
No, little Timmy over there is lifting his head. He's going to be a prospect. Look at him. He's going to be a baller.
Watch
Better
this.
Cap him now.
Look at him in the carriage. Watch what happens when I throw the ball at him at his forehead. Boom. Oh, it comes right back to me.
What a header! What a header! He's a prodigy.
He's a prodigy. He's going to be natural. Phil Sanchez from Phil Sanchez TV, not a channel I am really familiar with, says Indianapolis Mayor Hogsett, who is a now I'll get sued, announces the city is officially
Who would you possibly get sued for?
For telling you who he really is.
Oh. Allegedly, just said allegedly in front of it.
Dude, you know how deep I've been in my whole life in the innards of the Democratic Party in Indiana. Everyone within the party knows. Of course, I'm an independent now.
They allegedly know.
No, they know. Everybody knows what his problem is. He's got a problem, and he's
got a 2-inch.
He's tried to fix that problem several times. But he does have. Anyhow, no, I don't want to get
those pills don't grow it. Just so you guys know.
I don't. I'm not getting. I don't want to get sued. All right. And he knows who I am. So Indianapolis Mayor Hogsett announces the city is officially pursuing an MLS club. Yes, on Wish TV. It was also in the Indy Star. And then, so I wrote the CEO of Indy 11. I texted him, and I can't really read word for word what he replied, but just know this, they're not giving up. They're going to fight to stay. But yes, Indy 11 is, the word on the street is they're going to get San Diego'd.
So
right?
I know somebody when I posted the screen cap of that article, we'll go over here in just a minute. Somebody's like, man, I hope the fans really fight for Indy 11. I go, what's going to end up happening is the team is going to fight. The team's going to fight for their right to exist, because there's no way USL team's going to survive in Indianapolis.
No,
with an MLS side here, it's not going to happen. This is going to if a new owner and a team start an MLS here, then Ursula and his team are going to be non-existent. They're going to just close up shop because there's no way they can exist.
Nope.
But somebody's like, I hope the fans really fight for it. And I'm like, well, the team's going to fight for it. And what's going to end up happening is Don Wonka is going to present Indianapolis's fans with a goose that lays golden eggs, and they won't care.
Yeah, I mean, most casual fans will go to the new MLS team right away. The diehard 5,000, 8,000 fans of Indy 11 will they're going to have to either make a decision, because Indy 11 won't be able to survive. And you're talking about the whole park deal going under.
Yep.
Okay. So the park deal, if you weren't aware of this for Indy, it's a downtown whole section that all these investors, along with Ursula Osimir, and it's going to be hotels, stores, shops, apartments, and then the stadium.
They also
downtown.
talked about a casino being down there.
Right. Now, originally part of the deal and in the language of the deal with the city that Indy 11 signed, along with the developers and et cetera, is that at first the city put in a statement, a clause that said that they had to become part of MLS by 2022. This is the original clause in the agreement. That part of the clause was erased and eradicated, and then the deal went through. And then you and I went to the groundbreaking for the new stadium. And it all seemed like it was all done deal. But apparently the city is working with MLS along with unnamed investors. We can guess
which
who
we'll
they
go.
are.
We'll go into this in here in a little bit. Yeah.
Right.
But I mean, Mayor Hogsett was at the breaking.
Yes, he was one of the keynotes.
If there was a clause in there that, hey, we're going to provide this funding, but you have to be in MLS by 2022, then there would have been no reason why there would have been a breaking, and there would have been no reason why he would have been down there talking about Ursula in Indy 11 with these glowing.
Oh,
statements.
yeah.
Oh, geez, a polished turd.
And
but,
go ahead.
I was going to say there'd be no reason for that because that happened last summer.
Yes.
It would have been a year past at that point. So why are we at that point? No, I don't know. I think personally, we're going to talk about this. I think another investor came in and doesn't want to have to deal with Ursula and wants to go around it and probably has more money.
And we do know that it's obviously going to be an Indiana investor. And we also know that those investors or investor would have to be a billionaire because it costs 500 to 600 million to get in the league, period.
We narrowed that down. We got them pulled up here, actually. Let me get rid of that real quick.
So behind the scenes, behind Indy 11's back, the city of Indianapolis has been working with this other investor or investors. Probably more than likely, it's going to be one or two, about getting MLS to come to Indianapolis, which was, by the way,
and Dong and the MLS come hard.
By the way, when we founded the team with Ursula, with Peter Wilt, etc., the goal was always to get to MLS. That was always the goal. It was not a state secret. When we started out in NASL, the goal was never to stay in NASL. Of course, they're in USL now. The goal was always to get to MLS. That was the stated goal. Maybe not on the webpage, but behind the scenes, everybody working at that club knew that was the eventual goal. And that's why they wanted to build the stadium, because that was one of the steps we knew we had to take in order to become an MLS team.
When you can see the overall goals of Ursula and Indy 11 when NASL was going to be dropped down to Division 3, Indy 11 was the first team, I think, of the founding 8 that jumped to USL.
Right.
Because they want to be as high of a level as possible.
Right.
And NASL was a sinking ship.
Yes.
They had like 8 or 9 teams, and once we ended up bouncing, it just crippled it. They had no chance. They folded, and the rest of the teams ended up, I think, going into USL anyways.
So this is
outside of Cosmos. I don't think Cosmos do anything now.
So this is the crooked shit MLS can do right now. They did it in San Diego. They'll do it wherever.
Yeah.
Just keep in mind, they don't give 2 fucks about USL teams. And now that partnership between USL and MLS is completely broken off since MLS formed their little boy league, right? For the little boys, their hairless nut wonders. Now there's nothing holding them back. So, not even an owner like Landon Donovan in San Diego is immune from MLS saying, hey, Landon Donovan, I know we got a trophy named about you and all that, but hey, suck this. We're taking San Diego. Suck it, brother. And
this is going to affect more than just Indy 11 inside of USL. I mean, this is going to, because Indy 11 has obviously their first team, but they also have an academy, and they also have a women's league, a team, USL.
Yes, which is first division. The women's team plays in the first division.
I guess in theory, the women's team could survive outside of it as long as their soul is willing to just aim for the women's game at that point.
Yeah, but they'll end up playing at IUPUI again.
Yeah.
You know.
The whole the Indy 11 park is out unless Ursula's willing to pony up the cash to keep it going, but that's a ridiculous sum. I mean, that's $1 billion plus, man.
Yeah, he's going to need to find he's going to need to find a partner with billions to partner with him to counter this deal that the city is making with MLS and whatever partner they have. Now, the sad thing is that all these people couldn't get in a room and talk about it and say, okay, we want to maintain Indy 11. So, but apparently whoever the new bidder is, they want it to be their team. They don't want to have to partner up with Ursel and Keystone and
Mhm.
all these other developers? No, they don't. They just want the team to be theirs. And they don't want to have to deal with Indy 11 and all their shit. But I'm sorry, Indy 11's been around since what are we on now?
2013,
14
2012,
years?
13, yeah.
14 years. And we're just going to flush that all down the toilet, I guess, which is sad. It's a sad thing to see, and I hope it doesn't happen. And according to my conversations with the CEO of Indy 11, they're not going down. They're going down swinging if they're going down. So I get it. They're going to fight. You know, we were there from the beginning. It's what these scars represent.
Well, the one you've got, yes.
Yes.
That's back then, because if you flip it around, you can actually see it has the old name of the team on there called Racing Indy before we became Indy 11. This is the one where Derek and I posted it up and collected the money and then ended up purchasing, I think it was just 100 scarves. There are 100 of these guys out there.
Yeah. I cannot get this to work real well. Man,
Not at all. Don't worry about it. There you go. See
No, there it is.
NDFC.
You can see race. It does say Racing Indy FC.
But don't worry, once the MLS comes to Indianapolis, it could be Indianapolis FC from now on.
This is before the team had a name yet when we made these scarves.
That was before Peter came around. We had those scarves before Peter came around.
Yes. Right. So
a 300 plus Facebook group of a fictional team called Racing Indy, and we sold 100 scarves.
More than that in the end, yeah.
Well, no, of that brand, right? The one you have right there. We've sold 100 of those. Well, that was a bare minimum purchase.
Right. No, we actually had to do a reprinting. I don't know if you remember that.
We didn't do the racing one. No, it was a different one. It
might have been the second one.
Scarf. I just think Racing Indy was taken off of it because I think at that point we were talking to Peter.
Right, and then he told us we're not doing green because these were green. He's like, we're doing blue and red.
We still did green and black because we were also thinking about possibly just keeping it as BYB colors, but that'd be weird.
So, go ahead.
I was going to say, let's jump into the articles. We've got some quotes, and that's going to stem a lot of the conversation that we're going to have anyways about this. But this is the Indy Star one. Indianapolis plans to bid MLS expansion team, raising questions on Indy 11's future.
Well, there isn't a future if MLS comes.
Yeah.
Indianapolis announced Thursday will put in a bid for Major League Soccer expansion team, potentially placing in jeopardy the plans that are underway to develop 11 Park, a more than $1 billion mixed-use development anchored by the Indy 11 soccer team, and let's be honest, Keystone Corporation.
Well, yeah, and this is we'll get into this in a second because there's an actual quote from one of the council people where they talk about all the different organizations that are going to get screwed in this process.
Yeah.
Now, mind you, the bid's going to have the new stadium location, everything. It's going to incorporate different people, so there'll still be a stadium built. There'll still be other complexes built. So, but the problem is that the group of people that are working to build this now are going to get screwed over. And it's not just Indy 11 at that point. It's a whole swath of companies.
Yep. Yeah. No, there are a lot of people involved in this development. City officials also declined to share who might own the proposed team or an estimate how much money it would take to field the team. The owners of the team will decide the stadium's location, city officials said. So, yeah, they're definitely not doing this, the city, without somebody who's already approached them, who is a billionaire many times over, who is putting in this bid.
Well, who fronts the money and who paid for Lucas Oil?
The city.
Us did. We did.
Yes.
We paid for it. We're still paying for it.
Right.
And so again, I think I mentioned it earlier. The Indy 11 Park was going to be in a sense where 80% of the overall expense was going to be covered by a tax that's going to be implemented in that complex. So the stadium, the renters, the shops, all that stuff, all going to be towards paying off the complex. And then 20% of it was going to be paid for by Keystone themselves.
Right.
I don't think, the initial upfront cost would have been taxpayer, but the concept would be that you'd be paying the city back with the tax.
Yes.
This though, again, with Lucas Oil, I'm using Lucas Oil as an example because we're going to bring up or say in a little while, but I'm just curious where people think the money is going to come from, because I've seen a number of people like, yeah, don't let Keystone bilk the taxpayers. et cetera, et cetera. I'm like, where do you think the money's going to come from when they build this complex?
Yeah, same thing. You're going to get fleeced anyhow.
Yeah.
So
happen, guys.
It doesn't matter if it's Keystone and Ursel or it's Jim Irsay. Yeah. You're going to get fleeced.
Do you know why they failed to share the estimate of how much money it would take to field the team?
I don't know because they're idiots.
Well, no, because if they came out and said, "Yeah, the city of Indianapolis is placing a bid for an MLS team, and just the bid alone is at least going to be $500 million plus the cost of building a stadium. We're looking
another
at
$100 million,
$1 billion, give or take.
It's $600 million bottom line just for starters.
I think it's well, yeah. Well, if they're gonna build something they are proud to look at and not just like a grandstand, if you will, it's going to be more than $100 million.
I mean, the Indy 11 stadium was going to cost them $88 million.
Well, the owner owns the actual company that's building it.
No, I get it.
I think you can nickel and dime some things and not necessarily charge what you normally charge for it.
That's why I'm saying it's $100 million to build the stadium.
Toyota Park cost about that when it was built. Well, it's not Toyota. SeatGeek Park was cost that. And that was like a decade and a half ago at this point. About a decade and some change.
You can still build a decent sized stadium for about 20,000, 30,000 for. Now, if they want to go crazy and they want to build a stadium for 80,000, right?
Million. I think you mean to say million, first off.
I don't know what I said. But
you said 1,000.
If you want to build a stadium for 80,000 people because
sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
You want to be eligible for future big like World Cups or whatever, Copa America games or whatever, then you're probably going to need to have at least 50,000 worth of seats. Now, that kind of stadium is going to cost you probably more around 200 million. If you're building like a stadium for 25,000, you can do that for about 100 million. Just depends on how big you want the stadium.
Well, it depends on I think it depends on the amenities and how grand you want it.
That's true. Either way, it's costing you somewhere between $600 to $700, maybe almost $1 billion to get in bed with MLS. So whoever this partner that the city has, who they won't name for MLS, they won't name them, but we can guess because there are only 3 major big ass billionaires in the state of Indiana.
Do you want to pull that up right now?
Sure.
Yeah, sure. Here we go.
There's only 3 guys that can really pull this off. Jim Irsay. I forgot Cook's first name. Damn it.
You sent it to me.
And I know know him. Jesus.
Carl,
thank you. God. Carl. Listen, Carl's a really nice guy, but he's got his limitations. I don't think he's not the guy. And then you got Herb Simon from the Pacers. So it's one of these 3 guys, and it ain't Cook.
Here's an interesting concept because obviously Simon's also a sports owner because he owns the Pacers, but he's primarily a real estate type of developer. Irsay's I don't know what Irsay does outside of the Colts, but he
drugs.
Drugs.
Yes.
Was it with Eli or something like that?
No, he had a serious opiate addiction.
Oh, okay, cracking. Okay,
yeah.
He sold a lot, didn't he?
Yeah.
Hey, I'm trying to buy the Baltimore courts. Come here, real quick.
He's been in rehab at least 3 times, Jim Irsay. From what I hear, allegedly. I don't want to get sued by Jim either. So
yeah, so I feel like pretty confident that we can rule out Cook.
Yes.
So I feel like it's between Irsay and Simon. And here's something I thought about after we were talking about this prior. But wouldn't it be interesting if we're talking about a complex that has a multi-use stadium, along with apartments, casinos, storefronts, restaurants, bars, etc. Wouldn't it be interesting if Irsay ran the multi-use stadium aspect, which includes concerts, other various things?
Oh yeah.
Makes and then you have Simon running the extracurriculars that run outside of it, the bar, the restaurants, the buildings.
Yeah, the apartments and all that stuff.
It would not necessarily like hard on one owner to front $1 billion, but I mean for each owner to front half a bill. Okay.
So So to give people some context, the Indy 11 played for what, 3 seasons?
Was it 3?
At Lucas Oil Stadium.
Oh man.
And anyhow, they kept jacking up the price for Indy 11 to play in that stadium. And so finally they left. I am under the understanding that allegedly the relationship between Ursel and Ursay, even though they both live in Carmel, about 5 minutes from each other, they don't get along. So they're not cozy. Let's just put it that way.
I heard allegedly Ursay egged Ursul's house.
Definitely allegedly on that.
100% allegedly, yeah.
I
heard it from a good source.
However, Jim Irsay and Herb Simon are friends.
Or as friendly as billionaires can be, I guess, as far as we know.
As Irsay put it, Herb Simon's one of his many Jewish friends.
Yeah. I've got a lot of Jewish friends, and Simon happens to be one of them.
Right. So it wouldn't shock me if those two were involved in this in some way, or at least one of them for sure. They're the only big time billionaires in Indiana who could pull this off. Ursel, on the other hand, is not a billionaire.
He's a very, very wealthy guy.
He's very wealthy.
He's very wealthy.
He's just a millionaire there nowadays.
Not just a millionaire.
That does not buy you an MLS team. So
at
MLS,
least a good 10s to 100 millionaire.
MLS is going to come in more than likely if this deal gets done, and it's either Herb Simon or Jim Irsay who are part of the ownership group, unless it's an out-of-state owner. I suppose that's possible, but I wouldn't count on it. I would mostly think it's somebody Hogsett knows, and Hogsett knows Simon, and he definitely knows Irsay very well. And as incompetent as Joe Hogsett is, I think the worst part of it is that this happened behind Indy 11's back.
Yep. This is funny that Fumar says this. Pro Rel would grow interest in soccer. That's true. And also, and I joked around about this with Derek via text. I go, Pro Rel actually would have prevented this from happening.
Yes.
Because then Ursel, all he had to do was field the team that would win in USL championship and then move up. Problem solved. We have an MLS team right there.
And in a perfect world where the whole state of Indiana was soccer crazy, you'd have 2 teams in Indianapolis, one in Fort Wayne, one in, I know.
No, we have one in Fort Wayne.
I know.
We have one in Indy.
All in a pyramid with all of them capable of going up and down. So, it could be that in a pro rel system, you'd have the Indy 11, and then whatever this team gets named, I'm going to die laughing if this team gets named Racing Indy.
There's no chance in hell.
I'm going to die laughing if that's what this team
hold up
gets
your strap. That's right. I predicted it, you motherfuckers.
Well, Ursel wanted to name the team Racing Indy.
Sure.
Until Indianapolis Motor Speedway say, you name that team in Racing Indy, we're suing your ass. And then they didn't. So
stupid. It's such a stupid thing. It's not like they're competing in the same sport or anything like that.
Oh, I know. And then they all became really good friends after that. After the conflict, and they worked it out. Then they all
even Dunmore went to go work for
them
for a
Tom
year too.
Dunmore worked right at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, IMS, after he left Indy 11. So there you go. So
it's no big secret. And I don't know why. Maybe they don't. I don't know why they don't just come out and flat out say it, unless Ursel happens to be friends with some of the guy who's placing the bid and doesn't want the backstabbing to occur until it's legit.
Well, the bid's out. It's no secret now. Obviously, Gregg, not Gregg Berhalter. Gregg, I can't remember his last name because it's really odd. Anyhow, the CEO, he obviously is aware of it. I texted him today. We had a conversation. It's unfortunate. We'll see what happens. The project would be financed through a public-private.
I've already covered this. Is that 80-20?
Yeah.
Talked about already covered that.
Already done.
All right. Then this is that final legislation bit where the MLS team by 2022 we talked about.
Yeah, I think
Keystone broke ground in 2023. Yeah, that just builds up the argument again.
Yeah, we've covered it.
So
no need to beat a dead horse here.
Well, I did pull this one as well, the Fox 59 one. And
City officials said Thursday.
Naming. We've already talked about that. There's our say. That's who we thought. Okay, this is one I wanted to pull up. I've got two more quotes I do want to pull up here.
According to Hocksett's office, City needs two things to woo the MLS for an expansion team: a soccer-specific stadium that is promoted and financed by the city, a competent ownership group willing to pay the MLS extension fee. Yeah,
First off, does the soccer-specific stadium have to be promoted and financed by the city?
They need to have one.
Yeah, it sounds like, well, the MLS is requiring that the city is partaking in some role in this development. But then the big one for me was a competent ownership group.
Yeah, that's harsh.
I feel like this is according to his office, I feel like this isn't necessarily an MLS comment, a competent ownership group.
So let me provide some context. Even though Hogsett came to the groundbreaking of
Indy 11, less than a year ago.
Yes, less than a year ago. Hogsett is a Democrat. Ursel Osimir is the former chair of the Republican Party in Indiana or Indianapolis. I guess of Monroe or Marion County, or I don't know, central Indiana. Ursel has long, deep-seated relationships. He used to with Ballard, who was the mayor at the time, Republican. Of course, Pence, former governor of Indiana. In fact, there's a picture of me and Ursel and Mike Pence. I don't know if you have it, but it's
probably at the announcement, wasn't it?
Yeah,
like the announcement of the Indy 11 logo. They had 11 years ago, whatever day that was, they posted it. But then it went like, Peter Wilt, Ursel, there was Pence, and then Ballard, and then there was Hogsett right there, all right next to each other.
Right, and then there was the Democratic senator as well who was involved, whose name escapes me at the time. Okay, so we all put politics aside to build the team. Yes, that's what happened. Like at the time, for me, I was no fan of Mike Pence, but I put politics aside. We all did, to build a soccer team. And I didn't really care that Ursel was affiliated with the Republican Party. I just said, I don't really care. And this is so many years ago, obviously, when I was more involved in the Democratic Party. I'm not involved with the Democratic Party anymore. Just to be clear, everybody, I am an independent. But at the time, you had What?
Derek Ritchie, the independent.
I am an independent now. I have good reasons, and I'm not going to talk about it here. Anyhow, so yeah, you make odd bedfellows when you try to build something like a soccer team. And in this case, I don't think really Hogsett is a huge fan of Ursel in general. And so I just think this is smells a little personal as well. It smells it, allegedly. So I
just wonder if the new billionaire is willing to pony up a little bit more cash that takes a little bit off of the plate of the city. And he's willing to jump at that.
Well, and then we really don't know behind the scenes Ursay and Ursel's relationship as well, which could be shaky. And we really don't know Herb Simon's relationship with Ursel. Now, those two guys are in the billionaire class, and Ursel's only a millionaire. So maybe they don't even talk or hang out. I'm sure they have, because all those guys hang out. But yeah, there must be something afoul for them to be so distant and pushed off into a corner while this other deal gets done with MLS. So it's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy. All right, we should probably move on. Well, this is too much.
Let's read because this is what I was kind of talking about earlier. So I want to read this.
Okay, go ahead.
Nearly 1 year ago, I stood alongside families of District 8, business and community leaders of our city, state leadership as we broke ground for Indy 11 Park. It was a great day filled with hope and opportunity for underutilized portion of downtown of the White River.
Was it?
It was, yeah.
You were there.
It was a giant circle jerk while we stood in 90-degree heat of an old parking lot.
Yeah.
When we weren't recognized, even though we were told we were going to get recognized. Bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
We have our gripes with the team, but this is still
We
bullshit.
do. We do.
I'm still waiting for my bronze statue. What the fuck?
I think I get the first one.
I don't think Ursel or not Ursel, but Ursay or Simon are going to give two shits about who started BYB and Indy 11. You know, we're never going to get our statue. This is crap.
No, statue's out of question at this point.
Knowing that the vision of a mixed-use space and 20,000 seat soccer-specific stadium would be realized after 10 years of investment. 10 years, indicating this, guys. 10 years. They've been working on this for a long time.
They have.
Through every year and getting denied at one spot. Before the next year, they move it up a little bit more, and they get denied. Move it up a little more, denied.
Yep.
Today, while on one hand, I am pleased that Indianapolis remains a strong market for professional sports, I am disappointed that the decision was made to disregard the hard work, investment, and legislation that my council colleagues and state legislators had already passed in bipartisan manner for the former Diamond Chain site on the river. I'm hopeful that the original approved site will continue to be utilized for the soccer-specific stadium.
Yeah, and that's the tough part. So now, if you're Ursel, you're like, okay, that got approved. Am I going to continue to build this fucking thing?
Yeah.
And lose all my money and all my shit when they're just going to bring an MLS team in and take all my fans and all the casual fans and MLS going to just swoop in and steal all the shit that we've already agreed we were going to do together with the city, where Hogsett was at the announcement, and then Hogsett basically goes off, finds another couple investors, maybe one, maybe two, maybe three. I don't know. But obviously plans a totally different thing behind Indy 11's back. It's creepy, but that's how Don Garber does it. He does creepy. He likes creepy. Doesn't care about any local culture or, a team that's been around for almost 15 years now. He's not interested in that. He just wants money.
Money.
So, yep, we're going to get San Diego, people.
Yep. But, Chris Gary provides the silver lining, Derek. On the bright side, at least Indy will get a U.S. men's national team match in a few years.
No, probably not.
Well, we got to break in that new stadium, the new MLS soccer-specific stadium. That's why Minnesota and St. Louis all got theirs. Cincy. They all got their U.S. men's national team games because they broke in MLS stadiums. Clearly, we're going to get a U.S. men's national team game.
The words Indianapolis have never been uttered by anyone at U.S. Soccer.
Well, now we have a soccer-specific stadium in MLS, and they have to. It's a requirement.
They don't care.
The same reason why we gave them theirs. So why are we giving those teams U.S. men's national team games?
Because it's they've been around. Like St. Louis is known as soccer capital. Columbus built the first soccer-specific stadium.
The soccer heavy of Cincinnati and Minnesota.
Yeah,
wrong. I'm sure they got a storied history of sorts. But my point being is they got U.S. men's national team games because they built soccer-specific stadiums and the new stadiums. And they cracked them open. They even said as much.
In a way, don't you feel any guilt or responsibility for this failure? I don't, but I really feel bad for Ursel, who is a massive lover of the sport, loves soccer.
No, I don't feel any guilt of failure or anything like that. This is going to happen regardless. It's just the problem is that the plan was working a little too slow. Ursel's plan was working a little too slow, and a billionaire finally woke up and said, "Hey, you know what? We can do this."
It's just weird because, it was Peter Wilt, it was us who talked Ursel into making this commitment. And now he is getting hammered. He's going to lose millions of dollars. Millions. Not a couple 100,000. Millions.
No,
and
he was set to make millions and millions too, though, in the sense. But I get your point. It's always a risk when talking about sports.
It is,
especially minor league sports team, because
yep.
at that point it's not going to be making a lot of money. More often than not, it's going to be a tax write-off for his Keystone Construction for the most part. I imagine.
But the dream back then was different because at the time, MLS was coming in and not destroying USL teams, but picking up USL teams and allowing them to become MLS teams. Now the model has changed. The model is now from MLS, fuck the USL teams. We're not going to buy them and bring them into the league. We're actually just going to go and start our own MLS team in those cities and screw them completely and end them.
What major billionaire in that city can I talk to and see if I can convince them to spend $1 billion in my company?
Yeah,
because I mean, San Diego would be a good location for a team, of course, but what owner of the San Diego Loyal would actually bring a lot of money to MLS?
Right.
Nada. I mean, Donovan was part owner.
Donovan is not a billionaire.
He's got money, but he's not a billionaire.
No, he's a millionaire. That's not enough money to get you an MLS anymore. You have to be a multi-billion-dollar person, period. It's like getting into Formula One. You're looking at bottom line per year, spending $500 million. $500 million. And that's going to cost it's going to cost you, as we said earlier, $700 to $1 billion to get into MLS right now. Total costs. So,
yeah, this is why we're never going to get a U.S. men's national team game, even if we had a new stadium and a new MLS stadium and everything like that. Is despite the fact that it says Indianapolis International Airport, I think the only international flight we may have goes straight to England.
No, they can all be rerouted though. That's the thing about that. Like, let's say there's a major event, they can plan to reroute. So, like direct flights to Indy.
True. I don't doubt that they could reroute that. I'm just saying that we don't necessarily we barely have direct flights to places.
I can't remember which World Cup it was. Might have been South Africa, but they had a similar issue where there weren't direct flights into one of the cities. Well, for the World Cup, they fixed that problem. There were direct flights into that city. It wasn't just Johannesburg. That was
no, I see what you're saying. I thought you were talking about they would have changed the direct flight here in Indy to Johannesburg or something like that. But the idea then would have still been flying down to like Atlanta and then Atlanta to South Africa.
Yeah, well, like even in the South African World Cup, you didn't have to go to Johannesburg and then get on another flight and go to the other international airport or whatever airport. They actually rerouted all the flights so you could go to Pretoria straight to, what city was it? Because the hub was Johannesburg, right? But they stopped that for the World Cup. You could get a direct flight to some of the smaller cities during the World Cup, but just during the World Cup. And after the World Cup was over, you couldn't do it anymore.
Sure.
So it can be fixed.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, I don't think Indianapolis isn't going to be changing any flights for U.S. men's national team game anyways, because how many people are actually flying in from those countries to Indianapolis straight,
Yeah.
In that sense. It would be like if we played Mexico, it would be all
it'd be
Mexicans anyways.
It'd be sold out.
But I'm just saying, though, that'd be the thing, though. You wouldn't even have to worry about it being an international airport.
No, you wouldn't, because there are so many Mexican Americans in Indianapolis. It'd be a sellout.
To be a contender for a World Cup location, like an actual World Cup, like when 2026 for Indianapolis to be a considered location, Indianapolis Airport would absolutely have to be an international airport.
It would, yeah.
So whether or not that would happen, I don't know.
There's 3 other teams besides us you need to consider. All right, what else we got?
We're going to move into the actual topic itself and start talking about the Copa America coming up here. Unless you have do you want to do midweek report?
Let's do midweek report real quick. I do have to say I missed out on 2 other Americans over the weekend who scored in MLS, and that's Kikanovic for San Jose and Bobasi. So just a shout out to them. Both scored for San Jose. Matthew Hoppe was back in the 18 on Monday, oddly, for Middlesbrough. He didn't play, but he was back in the 18. What? He's been out of the 18, played for the 2 team. Now he's back in the 18. What the hell is going on here?
Hollow 41 says, finally, the Copa. Fuck.
Christian Pulisic went 90 and Musso went 77. We actually talked about that on the last show, so we won't go into it on Monday. Rick Van Hees went 90 for Utrecht 2 versus PSV 2 in a loss. But keep an eye on this Rick Van Hees kid, all right, for Utrecht 2. All word is he may move up to Utrecht, the team, next season. Unicorn had 1 goal in that game, by the way, for PSV 2. The Unicorn. The Unicorn. On Tuesday, Reynolds went 45 and Yao went 90. I'm not sure if Reynolds was injured. He didn't look injured, but he was pulled off. And so I'm not sure what's going on there.
Doesn't like a good pull off.
Yeah, I mean, it's, yeah, baby. All right.
Weinstein wants to know, what's the chick that Derek likes again? Elizabeth Warren?
No. Although, if you look at Elizabeth Warren's photos when she was in high school and college, she was actually fairly good looking.
Most people are better looking when they're young.
Yeah, she was a good looking gal at one point in her life. Anyhow, Kave, Zahira Leslam, went 90 in a loss for St. Truden this week, but he did go the full 90. He had lost his starting spot there for a while. So back in the starting lineup, and then they lose. McKennie went 81. Weah went 20. Weah did get an assist in a loss. I mean, I don't know what to tell people. Like, don't watch Juventus. It's a fucking nightmare. It's disastrous. It's just like what it's, you know, you might as well be having an ice pick rammed in your skull.
It was funny because I actually had a nice back and forth with Colin about the Juventus game. And
no shit.
Yeah, he made the comment. He goes, I know you and Derek also believe the fact that that was a shot by Weah and not a pass or cross.
Yeah.
I said that was 100% a shot. He just scuffed the shit out of it and went right to Milik. And Milik put it away.
I don't know how he knows what I think because I don't talk to him. So
I think but yeah, he's like, yeah, I got made fun of so much on X because I made that comment about how I think that was a shot, not a cross. 100%. Weah is a striker by nature, even though he doesn't play a striker anymore, and he gets a chance in the box. He's ripping a shot, but he just scuffed it to the left and happened to be a nice cross.
It worked out.
It's
not really that hard to not get like totally pummeled on X. It's not hard. Just don't say things that are stupid. I don't know.
It sounded like those people that were countering Colin's comment were thinking that he was stupid for saying that.
Okay, well,
I think those people already came into the conversation with a bit of a bias against Colin, but
that's true. But
I tried to address everything he says.
That's a bit on Colin, unfortunately, right? Unfortunately for him, he said some other things prior that, and he's built this consensus around him of who he is. It may be fair, it may be not. Regardless, you know. Anyhow, Wednesday, Adams still injured, and as we're going to get into, if he does go to Copa, could be severely limited on the amount of minutes he can play.
Mm-hmm.
That's the word on the street, that this is not something that's going to go away anytime soon. You know what it sounds like to me? Another sports hernia. I know they're talking back spasms, but Jesus Christ, this must be the worst group of back spasms in history.
Just really. Keep him off the pitch until it's a really important game and get a good solid 45 minutes. He can score a nice 45-yard rip again.
Maybe.
And then that's what you need him for, right?
I mean, I don't know what Bournemouth were thinking. They told Gregg he's not allowed to play him any more than 45 minutes a game. Then he gets off the plane to Bournemouth and they play him 90 plus. It's just insane. And now
that's what Johnny's saying too. He's like, bro, what the fuck did you play him 90 minutes?
And now he can't even get out of bed, apparently. It's that bad. All right. So Trusty went 90 in a loss. I have to give Trusty some props here. He made some great plays in this game. They did lose, but he made some great plays. I have to say I've got Trusty over McKennie at this point, or McKenzie over this at this point. And yeah, I guess that
Playing weekend, a significantly better league, probably at this point, yeah.
That PK he got called for was absolutely ridiculous. That's not called 99% of the time. 99% of the time, all that shirt pulling and all that shit is just totally ignored in the box on a corner. Totally ridiculous call. In my opinion, I'm biased. Haji Wright went 45 in a loss. Obviously, he couldn't start. He played 120 minutes. They actually didn't start him. They didn't start Sims. They didn't start, what's his face? They left some starters off because those guys had blown their wad in the cup game. All right. So Balogun went 68 minutes in another fairly anonymous and not very impressive presentation on his part. This is not good, folks. It's becoming a trend for Balogun. It's not good. McKenzie went 90 in a loss for Ghent. None of the goals were really his fault. But, I mean, I don't know what to say. Genk is, it's not the Genk of 2 years ago or one season ago. Sebastian Soto went 8 for Klagenfurt in a win. So he's back. Bello went 90 in a win for Lask. Stanko went 45 for Lamia in a win. His team currently sits 6th in Greece, but nobody's going to talk about him. Zendejas went 90, got a goal in the tie in the Champions Cup game. And that was against Pachuca. And then it was Aguayo, who's the other American for Pachuca, who just rode Pine for 90 for Pachuca. And then on Thursday, Tillman got an assist and a goal in the win, which is a total blowout, 8-0, I think, final for, it was like, I think 6-0 at halftime, and you still Pepe only gets 12 minutes.
Well, yeah, I almost wonder at that point if that's sort of like a still kind of a punishment for the whole thing. Like he sat his games off. Now he got brought back in, but he's still going to get bit minutes, saying, "Hey, like the minutes you get, boy," type of thing.
Probably, because honestly, I thought Ledesma should even get some minutes in this game, and he rode Pine for 90 because it was such a blowout.
Yeah,
such a blowout.
Come on, get in here.
I mean, even what's his face, the 33-year-old
I think Dest got subbed in with only one leg.
Van Aanholt, who's barely played, and everybody is worried. Well, Dest has got to beat out Van Aanholt for the spot. Well, Van Aanholt's third string, and he got to play. Lots of guys got to play today, and Pepe only got 12, and Ledesma's got 0. So there you go.
Do you think Yanks Abroad is going to post Dest didn't play in this match?
Well, I hope not, but he knows. Yeah, Dest obviously injured. But I watched it right before the show. It was just ending, and what a massacre. I don't know what's going on at Heerenveen, by the way. I mean,
they've been downhill since Michael Bradley left.
Yeah, I guess so. Also want to add that in the Columbus versus Monterrey game, Zawadzki got an assist for Columbus, and Brandon Vasquez went 78 in that loss. And that's what I got. That's the Midweek Report. You really want to hear about the Midweek Report. Yeah, Van Aanholt was at Sunderland when Josie was there. And he played a lot back then.
Coincidence?
And I think he's played, 19, 20 games for the Dutch national team. But he's 33, and a 33-year-old left back is aged. That's not a position you can be old at, left back.
Marsh says that should be our midweek report song.
Midweek Report. Da, da, da. A little Neil Diamond for you. All right. What else we got, Brett? Let's cover it.
Larry says, get better. I'm turning on X-Men 97.
Get better.
I've seen from that looks pretty good, actually.
Is this the one with Ryan Reynolds and Wolverine?
No, that's Deadpool 3.
Deadpool 3, but it's called like
X-Men-
Deadpool X and Deadpool and Wolverine. I thought I saw the trailer for it.
X-Men 97 is an animated TV series.
Oh, I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I know you don't watch cartoons.
No, I stopped, as most grown people do, stop watching cartoons at the age of 13.
All right, we're going to start talking about some players for the Copa.
No,
not just the two that are listed in the name up above, but
I do realize that animation has changed since I was a kid. All right, so I realize why adults do watch it now. Okay.
My dad was watching Sing 2 with Charlie when I went to pick her up, and he goes, it was actually a pretty good movie. And I'm like, no, actually, a lot of the animated movies now are pretty good unless they've got an agenda pushing into them. I think my all-time favorite movie in the last like decade or so, animated movie, was Coco, which is a movie from Disney or Pixar, I guess, but not Disney.
Don't know that one.
It has to deal with Day of the Dead and Mexican culture and stuff. It's really good.
No.
Really good. I know we've talked about it before.
I'll look it up.
Yeah.
I'll look it up. I mean, there are some great
tearjerker. It's the heart.
There's some great animated movies out there. But I mean, you got to think, when I was a kid, we had like, He-Man, which is the most atrociously animated series ever made. He-Man, that's just horrible. But then there was some great Japanese stuff back then. The first major animated Japanese show to be on American TV was called Star Blazers, and it was fabulous. It was absolutely amazing. It was great shit. Like, that's what we all like. Kids would come on Saturday morning to my house. We'd all sit down, like 12 of us, and we just watched Star Blazers on Saturday morning. That's how big of a deal that was. So there's good stuff out there. I never got into Speed Racer, Tony. I mean, just never did, but that was another one back in the 90s. I mean, the 80s that came out, but never could get into that. And then, of course, when I was in Germany, the big one was Felix the Cat. I'm trying to think about when I moved to the States.
That was big in Germany?
Felix the Cat, yeah.
Really?
In German, yeah.
It was big here in stateside, too.
Felix the Cat was a German series, I believe.
I thought, it wasn't just dubbed into German?
No.
But you're saying it was an actual German series?
Yeah.
So then somebody in America ended up taking it and then Americanized dubbed it in American, I guess.
I have never heard Felix the Cat in English.
Huh,
Isn't that weird? Yeah. Never heard it in English.
I think most people stateside, when it comes to cat series, probably watch Garfield.
No, I never got into Garfield. Nah, never did.
But Garfield was big like in the late 80s, early 90s.
90s, 80s, yeah, somewhere around there.
I mean, you would have been graduated from college at that point, like 10 years out of college.
Right. And it was, even though it's an Indiana artist.
Yeah.
All right.
I feel you. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, jumping into the Copa player talk here. Let's talk about Tim Ream.
So, laugh all you want, but Richards McKenzie is my Copa pairing. I mean, I'm gonna laugh at you a little. I mean, not hard.
Sorry, you jumped right up to U.S. Men's National Team Trev.
Yeah, I'm not gonna laugh hardcore at you or anything, but McKenzie, really?
McKenzie? Why McKenzie at that point? I'd put CCV over him.
CCV, I'd take Trusty over him at this point. Did you just watch him play the last game for Genk? Have you watched him play for Genk this season? And all the mistakes he's made? I'm taking Trusty. I'm taking CCV. I'm sorry, McKenzie not having a good season. Now, Genk is not the same team. They lost so many of their best players. I get it. They're under attack a lot more than they ever were before. And I'm not saying McKenzie was responsible for any of the goals this last game, but he's had some bad moments this season. I don't know. He's playing, by the way, in Belgium. Just a reminder, Trusty is getting crushed. Yes, Sheffield United are getting crushed. But, what Trusty is doing right now for Sheffield United has just been really impressive for a team that gets pummeled and has no possession every single game. He's playing defense constantly. So, yeah, McKenzie needs to make a move. He needs to challenge himself a little more. Miles is the reason we lost Gold Cup playing volleyball. Yeah. I wouldn't start Miles.
I forgot all about that.
Yeah. So I'm not laughing hard. If you want to pick McKenzie, I'm fine with that. If I'm comparing him to CCV or I'm comparing him to Trusty, I just don't think he beats either of those two guys. Tim Ream has not appeared for Fulham since February 17th. I don't really give a fuck. 8 straight did not place. Don't care. I simply don't care.
Did you see when Ream came in, though? I mean, Ream was our best center back option in that last window.
Ream? Yeah.
What
Ream brings, no other center back we have can bring. Although, I have to say this, for Crystal Palace, Richards passes the ball out of the back pretty effectively through lines. But with the U.S., is he not allowed to do that? Or is he told to just give the ball to Tim Ream? Because he doesn't do it for us.
Well, is the issue that the teams we've been playing recently have been sitting back and clogging the passing lanes?
Yeah, and I guess only those long bombs that Ream can do to the players out wide, outright, mostly.
Yeah, way up.
Nobody else can do it, So I know I'd like to see Richards be a little, I hate saying this word, braver with the ball. I hate saying that. I hate that term. Be brave with the ball. Fuck off. Be smart with the ball.
I feel similar with that with Reyna at Forest. Yeah, I want Reyna to start taking some more chances.
Yep.
Get some great. Don't just maintain possession. Don't just pass it around. And I mean, it's good. He's opening up like Nico Williams for opportunities, but he needs to start trying to slot guys who are actually going to put the ball in the fucking back of the net way.
Right. You're not playing at Dortmund. You need to be a leader for this team. So take some chances. Brett Oppenheim, thank you, my brother. I hope you are well for $9.99. Weah's assist was in a loss, but I believe that goal sent Juventus through high to Copa final. Yeah, I mean,
they won an aggregate 3-2.
On aggregate, they won the game, but it was a really painful game to watch in general.
What's funny about all that was that obviously they ended up losing 2-1, but that reaction they got in the 83rd minute to that goal, I mean, at that point, they clearly knew that, God, we only have like 7 more minutes to hold on. Maybe we can celebrate for like another 5 minutes. Come on, guys.
Yeah. And as you said, it was kind of an accidental assist.
Yeah.
Which I watched the video and I'm like, I don't know if he really meant to do that.
He went laces. He was aiming far post, but it just scuffed it to the left a bit. But it worked out, like you said.
Yep, it did. Hey, Brett, thanks for showing up
that.
for the show. We appreciate it. So what do we got next? Some accounts who said the U.S. men's national team shouldn't try Weah at striker in the midst of all the problems at the 9 before the last World Cup are now saying we should try a multitude of midfielders at right back over Joe Scally. Okay, there are two things here, Arturo. I'm not sure I was privy to these discussions about Weah playing striker in the World Cup because, I mean, he was solidly our starting right winger. I mean, no doubt. But I don't know. I missed that part, right? But the idea that somebody else might get a start over Joe Scally, that is a reality. I'm sorry. Joe Scally has had a mediocre, and I'm being really nice here, a mediocre season with Gladbach. And actually, Gladbach itself has been mediocre. The whole team. The whole team. Like, that's why these idiots had to get rid of Daniel Farke, because he wasn't good enough. And now look, you're even worse than you were last season. You had to get rid of Farke. Well, to Norwich's, to Leeds' benefit, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, clearly.
Yeah, clearly. So that's why you don't pull the trigger and just slash a coach and fire a coach because he didn't
mid last season. You're
you didn't get us into the top 4.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Maybe you don't have the players to get in the top 4. How's that? and it ain't on Farka. So, because Farka's taken a Leeds team that, yes, has a lot of good players on it, but was in many ways emotionally and psychologically hammered last season. Like, they could just have taken this season and fell completely apart and finished mid-table, but they haven't. And Farka's been the reason they've been as good as they have been. So, yeah, the grass is not always greener, Gladbach. And I have to say, Joe Scally, well, granted,
I guess the grass is equally as green as it was the previous season. Nothing changed.
Joe Scally has played right center back, right wing back, right back. All season, he's been flip-flopping between positions. It's not easy, I'm sure, on him. But let's be really honest about who Joe Scally is. He's a competent defender. He's not great going forward. He's not an artist. He's not Dest in any way. So, yeah, you're going to think about who else can take over for Joe Scally at right back. If you want to have some continuity or whatever you want to call it, some continuity. Thank you, Brett. Yeah, I mean, can you get somebody who can approximate what Dest does? Because Scally can't do it. He's simply not capable of approximating Dest in any way. So you're going to have to start thinking about other options.
There's an idea you can look at it. I mean, first off, we want to address the comment on the channel here. Johnny says, Timmy Chandler, and guess what? Larry would have been happy because I brought you up last show, and I brought Timmy Chandler up in last show. And I think Derek's comment was like, yeah, if Timmy had a couple extra starts this season, I'd think about it.
I would. But, a couple games this season for Frankfurt, not enough for Timmy Chandler. So, yeah, I love Timmy. So just know this, that my family has a personal connection with Timmy Chandler. Mm-hmm. So we love Timmy Chandler. My mom loves Timmy Chandler. It's not enough. You got to play. You got to play the game, and he doesn't play. So,
yeah. So wonder if Gregg can implement his initial game plan that he had when he first took over for the U.S. men's national team. You know how he played Adams out right back, and when we're in the attack, Adams would just push up into the midfield where he plays now, anyways, and play that 6 in the attack, but then right back /6 in the defense. So maybe what happens is if you're playing like a Musa and Weston or Johnny and a Weston, if Adams isn't there and they're pushing up in the attack, then you just have Scally pinch into the middle and he plays the 6 role until the midfield catch up.
I don't think that's too complicated for Scally, number one. And number two, I do not trust Gregg to implement that in a working fashion. And
it didn't work before, so why would it work now?
So here's the big thing. If Adams is limited in time, who do you start as the double pivot in your 4-2-3-1? Well, I mean, at this point, he probably, my guess, will start
MMR,
McKennie, and I'm talking about the double pivot specifically.
McKennie and Musa.
So then what does that leave you on the right back as an option? Nobody. Because I don't think you then you have to play Scally. I would suggest this. I would suggest you start McKennie and Johnny as your double pivot, and you find a way to get Musa on the field. And Musa's played right back, right wing back, and right winger for AC Milan this season. So I get it. It's a risk, but that's why we got 2 friendlies to build up to the Copa. I think you test that. I think you get Musa on the field and you get him on at right back, because I think Johnny is going to be a better like for like swap for Adams than Musa. Musa's is not a ball killer. He's not a lane killer, a ball killer, a destroyer in any fashion. He's not. So I know he's done the job before, but this is against lesser competition. We're going to be playing Brazil. We're going to be playing Colombia.
So using last window's roster. If you throw McKinney as a right back, that leaves you Tillman and a possible 45 minutes Adams. Unless Adams can't go, and then you have insert player here, Luca De La Torre.
I don't think Adams is going to be able to. We don't even know if he's going to be able to do 45 at this point.
True, I know. Okay, let's assume Adams isn't there.
Yeah,
that leaves Tillman, and who do you think? Luca De La Torre, or do you think it's going to be Maloney? I think it's probably going to Luca De La Torre.
Oh yeah, for sure, over Maloney. Yeah.
Because you still have Weston, Cardoso, and Musa as potential double pivots. You don't need a destroyer, I guess. I mean, you could bring him in because we don't have a destroyer at that point.
I mean, Maloney would be the only direct swap for Adams. Maloney is the only other complete and utter just destroyer. That's what he does. He breaks down lanes. He stops people from getting the ball in open space. He's soccer IQ's off the charts, and he's a destroyer. That's what he does. He's not going to give you anything going forward, just kind of like Adams doesn't really give you anything going forward. So if it's a like-for-like swap, maybe Maloney's got a shot to get on this. I don't know. Because Luca De La Torre ain't going to replace Adams. The only other guy besides Maloney is Cardoso. And he's not really a destroyer. He's a lane killer, but he's not a destroyer. And he does have the capability of making some good passes too, which is something Adams can't really give you, some thoughtful passes forward. So I'm just guessing Gregg's going to go with Cardoso and McKinney. That's just my guess. I'm guessing because I'm not inside, God forbid, Gregg's brain. And I do think he's going to try some options at right back. It could be McKinney. I hope it's not because I like McKinney in the midfield.
So I think initially in the upcoming friendlies, I don't think Gregg's going to start off experimenting. I think he's probably going to start with his probably go-to 11, and that's going to include Scally starting. Now, if he starts, fucking up a lot, or he's not offering what we need from that position, then maybe in the second half, or even in the second game, you might see more experimenting. But I think at the very beginning of the first game, you're probably going to see a go-to starting 11.
Let me ask you this. When Gregg rips a player off at halftime, what's he generally saying? You're a fuck up, and you're fucking up, and I don't trust you. And he's rarely done that to players. Rarely. He did it to John Brooks in Honduras. He just did it to Joe Scally versus Jamaica. I don't think that Gregg Berhalter has a real high opinion of Joe Scally. I think he may indeed start Scally for the first 45 in the first friendly, but he is definitely going to experiment and put somebody else out there. There is no doubt in my mind. And it'd probably be McKinney. It could be Musa. More likely Musa, because I don't think you can afford to lose McKinney in the midfield. He's just too active. And you got Reyna in front of McKinney and Cardoso as your connector. So you really don't need Musa because Musa's not a connector, right? He's just not. And right now he's the odd man out. And you saw that in the final versus Mexico. Who was the odd man out? Who didn't start? It was Musa. So
I think that came down to the fact that Berhalter was going for something very specific, and that's why he played Ray in the back. But
I think if you're comparing Mexico, if we're playing some shitty team, I understand, but Mexico is more like the teams we're going to be playing in Copa America.
Sure,
they're more aggressive, forward thinking. Okay, Bolivia will probably sub-bunker against us. I don't think they'll bunker the whole game, but it's the only team we're going to play in our group stage that is going to bunker, in my opinion, or partially bunker. Most of the teams we're going to play in our group are going to be more like Mexico in the fact they're going to actually try to play. So I think if you look at that as your example, you think Skelly's probably not going to start. I don't know. I could be wrong.
I feel like that's up. You want Scally to start against teams that are willing to attack you because your backs are going to be on their heels more than they will against teams that are going to bunker.
No, exact opposite. For teams that play us in the open and give us lanes to pass through because they're spread out, because they are attacking, they're not bunkering, you want a skilled player like Dest. Well, we don't get to have Dest, unfortunately, so we got to find somebody else. Now, the problem with Musa is he's really good at carrying the ball forward. Excellent at it. Like, you're not going to strip Musa of the ball, so that's a positive. Whereas Scally can be stripped. Scally can make mistakes. Musa, not going to lose the ball. He's not going to make any great through passes, but he'll make the solid, sensible pass. And I think that's something that's more reliable, in my opinion, than Scally. I could be wrong. Musa could be awful as a right back. The few times I've watched him AC Milan this season playing in those roles, he's a hustler. He hustles like a motherfucker playing defense. I don't think he's going to be bad at defense. His crosses could be better. But it's not like Joe Scally's crosses are great. But what Musa provides that Scally can't is a reliable possession player who can advance the ball past 2 or 3 guys if you need him to. And Scally can't do that. Scally ain't dribbling past 2 or 3 guys. Ain't happening ever. Ever.
I don't think anybody's expecting him to do that. But then again, when you're playing against Uruguay, you're going to be playing against, Colombia, Brazil, Argentina, any of those teams. I don't know. I feel like you're going to want a more reliable defender than somebody who might be able to dribble past 1 or 2 players.
How unreliable is Musa, though?
Huh?
How unreliable of a defender is Musa?
I've never seen him play defense.
Yeah, you do. You see him all the time. He plays center midfield for us constantly. He's done it for
Whoa. Derek, you've spent all last show reaming me about how there's a difference between playing left back and right back. But now you're saying that him playing defense in the middle of the field is the same as playing right back?
Actually, it's easier. And I'll tell you why it's easier to play right back than center midfielder.
But it's different, though, Derek. That was the whole point.
Oh, it's different. So what?
You made that point last show.
The point is that, yes, it's different, but it's easier because, by the way, if you're playing in the center midfield, there's all kinds of ways the opposition can go at you, left and right. If you're playing right back, there are only so many ways. You're in a corner, basically playing defense against a guy one-on-one in a corner where his options are he's going to dribble past you or he's going to pass it backwards or sideways. Midfield, you're playing defensive midfield. There are all kinds of options. He can go pass it to the left of you, the right of you. He can dribble past you. There are all kinds of things. I just think it's harder to play center defensive midfielder, which is why Adams is so special, by the way. Adams is special. He's a special kind of destroyer. Those guys don't grow on trees, which is why Bournemouth, they would probably play him 90 every game if they could, but they can't because he's not healthy. So, yes, it is different, Brett. You're right. It's different, but easier, I think, to play right back than play center midfield. And be a defender.
Here's the big difference too, though, is that if you're expecting Musa to get up into the attack like Dest does, him having to recover and getting back in the defense is different than having to get back and playing in the midfield. So it's different. But the whole point of the argument last show was it's completely different playing left back and right back. Yes, I agree. There's different positionings that you're not comfortable with, but the same thing can be said by moving from a center back or from a center midfield to a right back. It's completely different. Where you need to position yourself, where you need to move, you're going to get caught out of position, caught off guard. It's going to be different. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't play Musa. I'm just saying it's not as simple as saying he's defending in the center of the midfield. And he's defending, but he's not defending like you would defend on the right back. It's a completely different game. How
different is it? He's been playing for AC Milan. A bunch of games he's had to play right back and right wing back. It's not like it's an alien planet. He'll figure it out. He's no dummy.
I know, but I'm just saying there has to be. We talk about consistency for a lot of things, but we're making consistency with arguments here too.
I am just telling you, Scally versus Musa is not a competition for me. I am getting Musa on the field. Period. End of story. And I'm just sorry. I've been watching Scally all season for Gladbach. Not impressed. Not impressed. I watched him for the U.S. men's national team. Not impressed. I'm sorry. I don't dislike Scally. I think he's probably a charming human being. We often quote him when we talk about Gregg, because I think he's right about Gregg. But as a player, going against some of the best teams in the world coming up here in Copa America, I don't want Scally on the field, period. I just don't. We got a super chat, by the way.
Yeah, no, I'll pull it up here in a second. It's not anything present on the topic at hand, so I figured we could finish the topic before our current topic, what we're talking about now. Not the whole topic, of course. I don't know. Scally hasn't had a great season. I understand. There have been a swath of players on our national team that haven't had great seasons, yet we still start them and still require them. But simply saying, and I'm with you in the sense that I want to be able to test other players in that spot, quite frankly. I'm fine with playing Musa back there. I think Berhalter, and we both agreed to this, even though you countered the argument by saying the exact same thing I said, in the sense that Berhalter is going to start with Scally for the first 45 minutes, and then probably try to experiment if he's not doing well. And even if he is doing well, probably still experiment.
Yeah,
so we're
probably.
in the agreement there. I think our back and forth really is very nitpicky in the sense that it's. I think Scally being a right back is going to see more time unless he just completely fucks it up. And now that could be the case, or maybe who knows? Maybe he comes out and absolutely balls it. Just like Dest, but yeah, go ahead. Sorry, I mean
he's not going to ball it because Scally doesn't ball it. Period. He doesn't have ball. He's a good defender, and that's all he's going to bring.
That's fine.
And
that's all we need.
That's absolutely fine. No, it's not. It's not what we need versus better competition. We need a skilled player, a technical player. And I don't think that Musa, his defensive abilities are so bad that it's going to be a hindrance. I don't know. That's why I want to see it tested before we do it in the actual tournament. I want to see those two friendlies. I want to see a test. So I can see it for myself.
Fine. I mean, that's fine. I mean, he's tested McKennie back there before he's ever tested Musa, so I don't know if he's going to do Musa over McKennie. But I think Berhalter will probably rely on McKennie more so than Musa because McKennie at least plays that kind of role relatively consistently, or he has in the past.
I agree. McKennie's the easy answer. McKennie can play that position with his eyes closed. So, I mean, maybe that's the solution, but then you're losing McKennie in the midfield and all the work he does there. And you're probably losing him in the box. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. You're going to lose him in the box, 100%.
So, that's what you have to balance if you're Gregg at this point. Like, what do I do, A, to maintain some sort of advantage on the right back spot? How much am I willing to give up? Because you're giving up a lot going from Dest to Scally. You're giving up a lot. How can I close the gap on when I'm losing on the right back? Well, I could play McKennie out there for sure. But now I'm losing a spot in the midfield. So now I got to start Cardosa and Musa together, who've never played together like regularly, ever.
So I guess the other argument would be in that sense is that when Dest moves up into the attack or when Jedi moves up into the attack, our double pivot or our six ends up covering for them. We saw it against Mexico with Reyna. We talked about, is he playing a left back? So the same argument can be said if Musa plays as a right back. Well, that just means that Cardosa or McKennie would just simply have to cover back when he goes up into the attack.
Yep.
If you have Scally in there who doesn't go up in the attack, you're relying at that point McKennie and Cardosa or Busa in that midfield to supply more into the attack.
That's all true theoretically. But the way Gregg plays,
sure,
the way his system works, it's all about overloads. So if Scally is going to be a passenger on the right side, then overloads are basically moot on the right side, and you're just going to rely on Jedi doing all the work on the left with Pulisic as the overload. Now, if this were a different manager, we'd be having a totally different discussion right now. But Gregg's patterns of play are so predictable, I don't think he's going to want to change the way he operates.
Sure.
So it's just difficult for Gregg, in my mind, I'm trying to mind meld with Gregg here, to put a Scally in who will basically make overloading the right an impossibility because there's no threat there. Because Scally can't dribble past 2 or 3 people. Who can? Musa.
Sure.
Okay, Musa can dribble past 2 or 3 guys and not lose possession and make the simple pass, usually not to anybody that's about to score, but at least he's reliable. So I think for him, it's going to be a measure of, for his system, what am I gaining and what am I losing? And Dest to Scally is such a major drop off. That's going from a 9 to a 4. For me, Dest to to Musa is going from a 9 to a 7.
I think Musa is the more like for like switch for that front, because even with McKinney back there as that option, McKinney's not a Dest either when it comes to the dribble, but he offers other aspects to the game into getting into the attack that's going to make a difference.
Yeah, and he's
Scally will.
He can drop a dime too.
So we both agree in the upcoming 2 friendlies. We're probably going to expect to see Scally start, but we want to see some experimentation there because we're certainly not. After Scally, if he relies just on right backs, who are we reliant on at that point? We're going to be reliant either on Reynolds, Jones.
No,
Yedlin,
we can't do it.
What do they bring that putting Sargent at right back couldn't do?
Big fat 0. Yes. So we cannot be talking about Jones and Reynolds or Fossey, who's injured, or Paredes. Those guys are not even close. They're not even close right now to Dest. I mean, if Scally is a 4 and Dest is a 9, all those guys playing that same position are a 3. It's worse than Scally because at least Scally's going to provide you a solid ass defense. Except for the game for Jamaica, yeah, which wasn't all his fault, by the way. There were other people fucking up, including Jedi, who fucked that up. So
Al Winston says Scally earning time at Gladbach is a legitimate accomplishment. 100%.
Yes. Yeah. No, we agree.
And to Derek's point, even though he's been saying like, oh, he's been mid, he's been this, he doesn't do what Dest does. He specifies that he's good in the defense.
Yep.
Most of the time. There are times where some question marks. We saw, we've seen it before, but primarily his defense is good and sound. Which is why he's getting playing time for a mid-table Bundesliga team. Props to him. He doesn't offer much in the attack. And the big problem here, and this is the issue that a lot of people have when they're like, I can't believe you're not picking Scally. Well, we're not picking Scally because of how Berhalter plays.
Right.
That's the big question mark. Will Berhalter, as you said, will Berhalter be able to adjust his game to have implementing Scally into the lineup? Or will he throw Scally in there, expect him to do what Dest does? He doesn't. He gets angry, subs him off, and puts McKinney back there.
Even Scally doesn't think he fits into Gregg's system. He said it. He thinks Gregg's system sucks. I mean,
that's the micromanaging aspect, basically, is what he's saying.
That's not word for word. But I mean, no one has criticized Gregg Berhalter's system more than Scally, and he feels suffocated in it. Brett, you're back. Thank you, brother. Wow. $9.99. You missed my super chat, but you got me to send this one. So well played.
Let me pull up his last super chat. We covered this.
We did cover that. Way's assist was in a loss, but we covered that, Brett. We did. We covered
Brett,
that.
I'll accept another $9.99 super chat saying that we already covered it. Don't worry about it.
No, we did talk about that. I don't know how. I mean, we talked about it for a little while, actually. Yeah. So,
we got you covered, man.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. It's going to be, I just hope we got 2 games to try something. Let's try something. And I know Gregg will. because I don't think that Gregg thinks that let me put it this way. I don't think Gregg values Scally much, because even the last time when we were talking about Dest being out because of his red card, who was Gregg talking about? Shaq Moore. Okay. So, yeah.
And like Shaq Moore offers more in the attack.
Yeah. It's like, dude, take that dirty shit out of your mouth. Quit sucking that Shaq Moore ding-a-ling. Stop it. He's done. Shaq Moore shouldn't be anywhere near this club. Now, the other thing that you could do, just a thought thrown out there. All right. As much as DeAndre Yedlin doesn't deserve to be on this team, I mean, at least he's a vet. He's a veteran. Like, he would know his job. He would do his job. I would take Yedlin before Moore, but I'm not taking him before Scally.
It's like Yedlin is adequate.
He's adequate with a question mark. Yes.
Yeah.
But don't talk about Shaq Moore
before
you talk about Yedlin, because at least Yedlin's been there, done that.
Where we learned that lesson versus Netherlands.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, Scally, we'll see. Listen, the last time I took a swing at Scally for his play at Gladbach and said, motherfucker never scores, doesn't provide. And then he scored the goal the next game. All right. So, and then he oddly, as if he had watched the show, did some performance. Like, that's for you.
I mean, I know it's Canada, but didn't Skelly have a good game against Canada in the last Nations League final?
Yeah, Canada.
Yeah.
Come on. It's Canada, folks.
Yeah.
We're playing Colombia and Brazil.
They won the World Cup qualifying group, Derek. They're kings of CONCACAF.
I only wish the best for Scally. It's just that he's hit a ceiling. And this year has been a regression for him as a player. And that's sad. I didn't want to see that regression. So
he hasn't, his form hasn't been great this year. There are moments, obviously. There have been games where he was good. And again, as we talked about, he's been tried all across the back line at some in Gladbach. But his ceiling, though, that my argument against it, he's hit his ceiling. His ceiling is still a relatively consistent starter for a mid Bundesliga team.
No, it's a great ceiling.
He's got positives. He's not going to break past that very far where he's at, and that's fine. That's perfectly fine.
He's not going to AC Milan. He's not going to Juventus. He's not going to any big club. Even as he said, he laughed about those rumors. It's like, I've never even heard about these rumors. But glad they're out there. But no, Joe Scally is not a top tier team player. He's a good middle of the road Bundesliga player, and he's sufficient.
Yeah.
I don't know about the ceiling. Needs to just grab his nuts like Sargent. Okay, here's the difference between those two. Technically, Sargent is way more gifted. And he's a bigger mammal. He's a bigger boy. He's physically taller. He's just more imposing in general. But I agree, it would help if, he became more bold. If you want to, I'm not going to say grow a pair of nuts, but yeah.
I think if you gave Sargent a handful of games in the back line, he'd be a pretty damn good back, whether back or center back.
Oh, I don't doubt that Sargent could play any position on the field. He could probably play goalie for all I know.
I wouldn't be shocked, yeah.
But center back, I bet you he'd be a fantastic center back. Yeah, Sargent's just one of those all-around kind of gifted players who's quite technical, and Scally's technically limited. He just is. So is Sargent, but not as limited as Scally. So it is what it is. It's, this is not meant to be, let's take a big steamy hot pile of shit on Scally Day. I'm just trying to tell you what I think Gregg's going to do based on his relationship with Scally, how he feels about Scally, and the competition we're about to take on in Copa America and in the 2 friendlies prior to the tournament. And I think he's going to test some folks out there at right back. And it's not going to just be Joe Scally being tested. Like, we'll see how Scally does. He's going to be under extreme pressure, by the way, too, when he starts that first game and plays the first half. Because if he flubs it up, he's out. He got yanked at halftime, just like he was versus Jamaica. So, and then Pete. All right. So, in the sphere of things that are helpful, okay, in the sphere of things that are helpful to fans, this isn't helpful. And I love Pete, and you know I love Pete. I text Pete all the time. I haven't texted him about this yet. But suggesting this is fine because it's his show. He can suggest whatever he wants. But just for starters, a 3-5-2? No. We're not doing that. Gregg is not playing a 3-5-2. Number 2, you're going to cancel out. Somebody's coming off the field that's an offensive threat. Okay? And number 3, Adams is iffy for Copa America right now. So having him on as a starter, you're going to have to replace that probably with Cardoso. Unless something magically changes in the next 3 weeks about Adams' physical situation, which is dire and not good. He can't get out of bed, barely, apparently. His back spasms are that bad. I mean, shit. At least Dest can get on one of those little bikey things. We saw him on the bike workout things, right? Slowly pedaling. Fuck Pete Dirt. I have never uttered the words fuck Pete.
Nope, you just did.
No.
So this is we're actually going to be playing some of this clip.
Yeah, go ahead and play a little bit.
Real quick before we even play it. He may go into it, I guess. But I don't know, man. Pulisic and Reyna in opposite roles right now. Like Reyna being that close to the goal, but not necessarily getting on the ball as often. Pulisic in the midfield, you're going to be relying on him to cut him back in the defense quite a bit and receiving balls deep.
Yeah, I mean,
playing Pulisic at the 10 would be one thing. If McKennie and Adams played it as a double, that'd be one thing you could make an argument for. But when you look at a tandem of Balogun and Reyna, who's playing off of who in that sense?
Yeah, I don't know.
Who's playing with their back to the goal? I mean, I guess Reyna would be in that sense, but I mean, he's not a holding striker.
If you pull Reyna back in this, like right in front of McKennie and Pulisic, it makes more sense. Number one, because he'll be a connector for Balogun and a connector for McKennie and Pulisic. But you're really asking Pulisic to do a lot of work as a central midfielder in this role. And what you're really confusing here is that both Reyna and Pulisic could play somewhat of the same role. And then you're taking Pulisic out of his best role, which is playing out wide, either left or right.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind Pulisic at the 10. I mean, he can do shit there, but
he's not even playing a 10 here.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, in this situation, you're relying on A-Rob and Weah to get up and down these sides right here, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, your striker tandem has to be able to play off each other. They have to be viably different. I mean, Reyna won't be playing. He'll be playing more like a false 9, I guess.
Yeah, I guess.
Second striker.
Right.
But then that's just going to get in the way of Pulisic and McKennie here. I mean, if you're going to do a 2 striker, you have to have one player that's going to be more of the holding, more of the physical beast. You know.
And then the big thing, Brett, the big major faux pas here. What is one of our weakest positions? Center back. And now you're going to play 3 of them? You're going to put 3 of them on.
Hey, we still have McKenzie and Miles available to us.
You're going to put 3 center backs on. Not 2, 3. When that's one of our, like, I would say, our kind of like iffy spot. Like, okay, Ream, great. Doesn't play much for Fulham. But yeah, okay, that's a good player. Chris Richards, young. Just getting started at Crystal Palace. It's got a long way to grow. Had a poor last tournament or last couple games. So, and now you're going to throw in Cameron Carter-Vickers, who hasn't been around the team at all for what, a year? 2 years, been injured off and on. Like, this is what you're going to go with? I don't get this.
Not only that, but you'd have to
go ahead.
You'd have to completely vamp your roster as a whole, because in this situation, Scally be absolutely useless.
And
you couldn't even include Scally here. Our wing depth is no longer a concern because we have no wings, but you'd have to bring in somebody like Paredes who would at least play the A-Rob role.
Yes.
And
we've had no time to practice this. If you think this might be a Disneyland solution, but in the real world, there is no way in freaking hell that Gregg's going to try this. There's just no way. And I will go eat crow if it happens. But this ain't happening because there's no time to make this happen. There just isn't. Okay? There just isn't.
Yeah. BMR and Spencer also brought up the fact that Skelly has played right center back. Hey, look at that. And I even made the joke that once Jedi moves up into the attack in our standard 4-2-3-1 or 4-4-3-3, that on the attack, we'd look like we would have 3 center backs because Skelly's not really going to get into the attack that often. So, I mean, maybe this is after a couple of movements in the pitch, and this is what we look like in the attack. Maybe Reyna has been moving the ball up or something.
No, because you've got seriously 3 center backs.
Yeah.
So that's just like a holding 3. And I get it. That supposedly offers you some sort of security. And then he's got Ream as the left center midfielder, which
that's worked out well in the past.
Yeah. I probably move him in the middle and let him be the field general. I don't know. It's just, this isn't going to happen. I think it's my major point. Like, there's no point. And it's his show. He can say whatever he wants. It's fine. It's his show. He's got every right to say, here's what I would do. Well, let me tell you, if you did this, you would fail because this is no time to work. We are doing 2 friendlies and then we're straight into Copa's asshole. Mm-hmm. We got no time for this. There's no time to work this out and make this work in Gregg's current system in the way it sets up. And you say, oh, no, it's not that complicated. Yes, it is, because Gregg's made it complicated. We've seen him play 3 in the back before, and what a disaster it was. A complete disaster against Honduras.
So going off, let's assume for, in Disneyland gameplay here, that we'll play a 3-5-2 using this lineup. Here's how I would change it, and it'd be a couple small changes. I'd swap Pulisic and Reyna first off because I want Reyna on the ball more.
Yep.
Pulisic's fine in the midfield, but I feel like him making the runs off of a target striker, like in using Sargent as an example instead of Balogun. Hell, in this situation, I'd use Pepe over Balogun because, again, you need that bigger body that's going to be able to hold up the ball and play with his back to the goal.
Sargent?
Yeah, Sargent. I know I said Sargent initially, but then I said Pepe could even do it over Balogun because Balogun and Reyna would be contending for that same spot in this lineup because you need that target striker in this 3-5-2.
You do.
So it's that screams like I'm Balogun's my striker. This is what it screams to me. This Balogun's my striker, and he's going to start regardless of the formation.
Yeah, and I don't think that's true anymore. And I think it's because even Gregg is figuring out in his system, Balogun's not really a guy that works in his system. So it's going to be up to Gregg to change. And if Gregg doesn't change, and the patterns of play don't change, then Balogun is going to be ineffective in his team because he doesn't know how to use through the lines 9. He just simply does not know how to use one. He has no clue how to use one. And the team doesn't seem utterly, tuned in to Balogun either. Like finding him in those crevices and those through balls. I mean, how many times has Balogun gotten a through ball? Like, it's so rare. It's hard to imagine it happening because it just hasn't happened very much. You'd hope Reyna would solve that problem for you, but he can't solve it as this. In this position. He cannot make that. You would like Rain to have a couple speedy options up front. And I totally agree with you. Pulisic and Reina got to switch.
100%. They're talking about Fumar brought up Maloney at right back, although I think that means like Maloney taking over for CCV in this situation, not necessarily Weah. I would actually substitute Maloney in for Adams at this point, because I don't think Adams is a guaranteed starter, and Maloney offers what Adams brings. Plus, he's great for covering the back.
If you want a destroyer, there is no other destroyer on our team or eligible for our team playing at a high level than Leonard Maloney. He's the only one left. Cardoso is not a destroyer. He's a good defender, but he's not a destroyer. Now, Cardoso also gives you the ability to play the ball forward, which Maloney not going to give you. Adams doesn't give you.
Maloney tends to make the simple passes.
Right.
He's the center back, guys. Remember, he's a center back up until last year. And so he'll break up the plays. He'll cut off the lanes like a center back would. When he gets the ball, he's looking for an easy outlet. Hey, you take the ball. You go up. I've done my job. And you know what? It's worked well for Heidenheim, and it's worked well for him right now.
I mean, Greg may have to seriously consider, if Adams is in that bad of fitness, bringing Maloney instead of Luca De La Torre. I mean, we'll see. We will see, because Maloney is the only exact like for Adams. He's the only exact like for like. There is no other player that's an exact, because Cardoso's more of a 6'8". He can do both.
Mm-hmm.
He's a box-to-box guy. Maloney and Adams are ball destroyers. They're sixes to the core, period. End of story.
Mark says, old school, no nonsense.
Yes. So I think Greg won't bring Maloney. I'll be honest with you. I think he will bring Luca De La Torre instead. But, I mean, if you really want to like for like, an exact, not exact, okay, a closer version of what Adams does, that's Maloney. Now, Maloney will have to build more chemistry with the team. That's the risk you're taking. Maloney hasn't played a lot for this team. So that is something you have to consider, where Luca De La Torre's been around this team quite a bit and will probably be pretty irritated if he gets left off this team. I would expect some Luca De La Torre comments in the press if he gets left off.
Well, again, and hopefully at that point, Berhalter's plan as a whole is to experiment these next two games. Obviously, like we said, start Scally, because that's who our backup right back has been for ever since like January of qualifier.
Right.
So you bring in Scally to start at least the first match and engage it at that point, and then you start experimenting with whether it's Moose or McKinney.
Yeah, halftime.
At that point, at halftime, you put him back there, you try it out and see if it's a better fit.
Yeah.
And then in that extra spot, that extra right back spot that we're not going to fill, because why would we fill that spot with another right back who's going to be one of the players we had mentioned earlier? Like I said, like Yedlin, Moore.
Yeah, right.
At that point, why even bother?
Yeah.
So I mean, at that point, you can bring in Luca De La Torre. So if you're going to put in somebody like McKinney or Musa in the back, you have an open spot in the midfield that he could start working his way back into that point.
Right. I mean, somebody's going to have to go, because the roster's so limited. You're down to 23. 3 of them have to be goalies.
What about Desmond at this point?
Nah. Too early. I think he's Olympics.
Oh.
He's Olympics. Yeah, he's Olympic roster.
I don't know. How old is he?
He's of age.
He is of age?
I believe so.
Yeah. Again, it falls into those one lines. Will his club release him? Who knows? But yeah.
Listen, somebody's saying, way right back, for fuck's sake. Okay, that's fine. I'm not going to, if he tests Weah at right back, I'm not going to complain. But, I mean, he's been a really solid right winger for us for a long time. It's really hard to see Gregg, and again, I'm mind melding with Gregg here, really hard to see Gregg leaving Weah off at the right wing spot, because now you're really mixing things up. That means you got to move Pulisic to the right wing spot. And then you got to play Haji Wright on the left wing spot or whomever, Aronson, but more likely Wright. And yeah, you're moving pieces all around now. Now you're really moving pieces all around. And I don't think Gregg wants to do that.
Who's our wing depth?
Haji Wright and Sargent.
So
they're not even natural wingers. They just
hopefully at that point you got Dark Brendan as another option. Not Brendan Aronson, but Dark Brendan. But yeah, when you start with Berhalter is a creature of habit.
Yes.
If we would have seen Weah at a right back option, we would have seen it instead of pushing McKennie back. I think McKennie is going to be his fallback if Skelly is not up to the task.
Could be. I'm hoping that he's watched enough AC Milan games to think, I could also try Musa out there and leave McKennie in the middle where he's really effective for us. So I hope that's what happens. But we'll see. Mm-hmm. It was an interesting debate. I'm glad we had it.
Yeah.
So, Pete, no offense, just not a big fan of this particular setup for my own reasons. We had a good time.
I'd like to thank the city of Indianapolis and especially Mayor Hogsett for making sure that we hit our 3-hour marker on the show.
Yeah, I mean, that's just crazy.
I certainly didn't when we had the topics and everything. I'm like, oh, well, I mean, this will go pretty quickly.
When you called me today and you're like, did you see that news? I'm like, shit, no.
Well, I think it was initial since. Are we going to get San Diego'd?
Yeah. And I'm like, I'll text the CEO and see what he says.
Can't talk, busy fighting now.
And I really, when I told you that, I didn't really think I was going to get a response before the show, but then I did, which was great. It's tragic for the whole city here in Indianapolis if this is what goes down, which is another backstabbing sort of MLS coup of a team that's been around for 14 years. And just basically USL is just a bitch. They're just getting bitch punked left and right. And it's not going to stop. And so all those morons back in 2012 who called me an idiot when I said that if you think MLS is stopping at 20 teams, you're an idiot. Now, that probably pissed them off that I said, you're an idiot.
I'm not an idiot. You're an idiot.
And they're like, no, man, you're the idiot. We can't expand past 20 teams. I'm like, why? Why would we stop? Why would MLS stop? And of course, at that time, we had inside info from MLS. We had friends who worked at MLS feeding us this shit, telling us, hey, dude, it ain't stopping at 20, ain't stopping at 24, you ain't stopping at 28, ain't stopping at 32. We're talking about expansion fee after expansion fee after expansion fee, feeding MLS money. Why would they ever stop that? They're going to go for they're going to try to be the NFL of soccer. They want 32 teams. It ain't going to stop. No one believed me. They called me names. They said I was an idiot. They didn't know that it would dilute the league. There wouldn't be enough players to fill out all the teams. Well, who's the joke on now? You. I don't know who those people were. They were big soccer morons back then when I put out that article. I wish I could find it. Why didn't Big Soccer have a bank of all their old articles and put them somewhere, archive, where you could go read all the old articles on Big Soccer? Why didn't they do that? I don't know. It seems tragic to me because there's a lot of great Bill Archer articles, my own articles on Big Soccer that were front page news that you can't read anymore. What the fuck is that? That's stupid. You just trashed them, put them in a trash bin somewhere. There's plenty of great stuff that people need through research would like to read. Like I can't even go back and research my own article and say what I said because it doesn't exist. It's somewhere in outer space. Come on, Big Soccer. And to think I guess if I wanted to do that, I should have bought it because I was offered to buy Big Soccer at one point. And I was like, nah, I ain't paying that, dude. This is a sinking ship. I'm not buying that. You're sorry, your website isn't worth that much. And that was the owner, who was a good guy to us. He was really good. He was a great guy. So I'm just saying his price was not affordable at the time for me. And so I didn't take it. Anyhow, thank you all for coming through the show. We love you very much. Make sure you hit a like before you leave. If you've been watching the whole time, I think it's important you hit a like because we got a lot of people watching these shows and we need more likes. It helps the show get on like that Alexi Lalas show. That shit's still popping up on I've watched the whole show and it's still popping up on my feed. Every time I log into YouTube, they're like, you need to watch this. I already watched it.
Watch it again.
I was on it, for Christ's sake. Anyhow, we appreciate it. We're going to have a good weekend of games. We'll be back on Monday as usual. And, wow, that's a spider. That's a big one. Anyhow, whoa. All right. Don't have sex with spiders, I guess. I don't plan to, but that's a pretty big one. Yeah, I still don't think it could take me. All right. Anyhow, we'll be back on Monday. Make sure you like, subscribe, share it with your grandmother. And, of course, inform your stepsister that we will be back and talking everything that you and she needs to know about the U.S. men's national team. Until then, we love you. Good night.
That hurt.
Then what is this thing?
Gio should never play for U.S. men's national team again because of the action of his parents.
What an idiot! Oh,
What type of Muppet does this?
Muppets. Absolute Muppets.
I'm not going to be the best person to give a whole explanation here, but that's...
Bully, bully, sick!